gracious Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for this day, and we ask that you watch over this body tonight, Lord God, that we conduct your business, that your will be done in all that we do. We thank you, God, for the opportunity to be here, that the willingness that each one has, that you've provided in our hearts. Thank you, God, but especially tonight we ask that you be with Wayne E. Smith, Father, that your hand be upon him, and that your healing powers would be with him, Lord God, and help him to return to our body and be a productive member. Also, Lord God, as we ask that you remember former Commissioner Jeff Aker, as he has lost his life, God, that your blessings be upon him, that your peace overwhelm him during this time, God, and carry him through. And God, that you continue to be with Howard Shipley and lead in his life, Father, that your mercy and your grace would be abundant in his life and all that he does. Father and God, as he adjusts to this new time, we thank you for all you've given us and for this opportunity. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
As we get started, commissioners, please.
Is that his on too?
No.
We got two mics out over here.
We're out of here.
We had trials all day today. Evidently, we are. Is anybody's mic working?
Mine is.
Oh my gosh, mine does.
We can just pass it. You're more welcome to have it.
Yours did
We'll
too.
just have to speak up, folks.
We'll pass it.
Yes.
That's the habit.
Wayne's work. I see this. You want this one?
We can just wear it.
We'll share.
We know you'll have a lot to say there.
Thank you.
We'll just share this one. Okay.
We'll pass it around if we need to. So as we get started tonight, we've got a big agenda, long agenda tonight. We'll get started and let's work through this as judiciously as possible. And to start, we'll call Chairman Horner of the Jail Center Public Safety Committee. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the Justice Center Public Safety Committee to order. If anyone wishes to address this committee, may do so at this time. Seeing none, 3A, no old business. 4A, the Justice Center project update. Tony Pettit with Burwell Construction.
Turn it on, maybe. It may not be on. I'm not certain. It's got a little switch there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. First, let me give you a little bit of update on the project before we get to the change order. Got a video, not a video, the pictures of the progress. This is the first level pour, not the slab on grade, but it's the first level of the detention area pour. And they've labeled these sequence 1, 2, and 3. So this is and right in front of it, you'll see these big foundations here. That's where actually going to be the
That's a concrete.
jail and safety department here. That'll be part of the one-story building. And then beyond that, you'll see the placing of the decks, concrete metal decks. That big thing sticking up is a concrete pumps the concrete out of the things. Okay, another picture. The aerial view that Blaine provided us, Blaine Construction. Oh. Okay. All right. So the way this thing gets put together, this is where your courthouses and ancillary things go with the detention center here. This is basically the detention center, the steel you got seeing up here. They're having to walk this crane back and forth to erect this building on up. The columns that you see right now will be twice as high when it's complete. So it'll be twice as high as these top columns here. As it comes up, it has these two walls are major concrete cast-in-place walls. They're called shear walls. And there's a lot of discussion about how crowded that shear wall is because there's steel and electronics and sprinkler pipe going through those. And it's a really coordinated effort, and it means a lot, as much as inches, to get all that stuff in that wall when you go through. another shot of it. This is going to be your future egress back from the courthouse back down into the lower level of the detention center, and that comes underneath the Justice Center there. This is the judge's drive and entrance. It's safe and secure. Over here, next month we're going to talk about some options that we can do here and here that you, the county, will need to decide. We'll get into that next month. This is their drive when it's complete all the way around. So it's taking shape. Is that it? Oh, okay, so here's the Sally Port coming in here. So when an officer has a arrest, they come in and make the or transfer or anything when you're taking a guest. I forgot the term, but when you take them in here, this is your intake level here at the bottom level. They're going to pour this at a later time once they get the structure up. They'll come back in and pour the slab on grade, and then they'll close in. You'll actually see some precast erected here before that bottom floor's placed. I think that's all of them. Okay. So we're a 37% build to date. That's kind of how we track completion. And of that 37% complete, I made notes. Found my notes. Of that 37.5% complete, 20% of it's stored material, which because of supply chain issues and trying to fight inflation and the escalators that people have been able to get through change orders, we're trying to get as much bought as we can and safely store it. So there is $34,763 billed to date, which is a progress report, but $18,550,000 is stored materials somewhere. Your biggest one lump sum stored materials is about $6 million in Baldwin, Georgia. It's the steel sales. As you can see, we've got concrete on the mid deck. It's being placed. Structural steel keeps going up. Shear walls are going up. And right there, you can see the control room on that first level. So that's where the guards go up and monitor, and they're able to see down this wing, and this wing here. So that's the control room. So we're beginning to see some semblance of a building. First, on the 20th, which is next week, we should start seeing the sales themselves. They're prefabricated down in Baldwin, Georgia. They'll be coming in. They're going to sit on this corner here with a crane, and then they're going to be scooted in place on casters, and then you'll begin to see some more shape to the building. And it'll take about a week to do that, and you'll see this thing start stacking up. So that's the report. Any questions on that?
Just one note, that stuff we do have stored is fully.
The requirements
checking.
of the general conditions, everything says that we get a certificate of insurance for the place it's stored. We have a bill of sale that it belongs to us. When we pay for it, it belongs to us. And so both of those things are required, plus photo evidence, or at times we go visit places.
Okay.
They're usually just Baldwin, Georgia, or down at Blaine's yard where they're storing some things. There's a lot of precast being stored in South Carolina right now, about 3 hours away. So that's the more fun thing to talk about. So, any other questions about that? So we have to talk about change order number 10. So in your packet, I think you've got change order number 10. I'll take them one at a time. Now this, as I said before, PCO startings for pending change order, and that's anything that might come up as it arises in there, like we're going to turn the doorknobs ivory instead of metal or something like that, and they assign it a number. And if it bears out, that number gets rolled into a change order. So that's what the PCO number is, just a way of tracking things. They may or may not make it to a change order. So the first one was the RFI 127, the reinforcement detail. And it's, we've kind of made an abbreviated thing, but it's, this wall here was added. It goes from below slab, which is about 4 foot below the finished floor, which is our mat foundation, up here. And it's to help with earth retaining. So that got added into the construction for $4,800. And interrupt me you're welcome to interrupt me if I hit something you want to ask a question, or we can take questions later. So the second one is PCO number 31. This goes back to our favorite topic of micropiles. If you recall, when we were talking about micropiles, there was an area where they went 150 feet and didn't hit anything. All these micropiles have to go and find bedrock, and then make sure it's just not a fragment. They have to be in depth of that bedrock 10 feet. So once they hit the rock, they drill down 10 feet and then set the micropile there. And then they fill it up with grout. In this case, micropile number 400 and 401, they're all labeled in there. 400 went and never hit anything. 401 hit like a cliff, went 150 feet without touching a rock, real deep. So 401, they scooted over. 401 kind of hit the side. It glanced off, and actually the contractor that was doing that lost all of its pipe and drill bit and everything. He couldn't back it back up because it just kind of sloped off that way where it would meet it. So they backed up and said, see if we can't bridge it with a foundation grade beam. And this happens. If you look at this drawing here, this is where we saw those great big foundations a while ago. I said it's part of the safety department. That's happening right there below that on the lower level. So we had to abandon those two micropiles, and then we had the concrete guy to help mitigate time coming right behind them with rebar for the grade beams and rebar for the mat slab. So they were right behind the micropile guy, but the engineer had to redesign this to skip those two beams. So what they did is just basically made those two beams, we had to eliminate them and span that with concrete, make a bigger span, bigger concrete behind it. Any questions there? Okay. Now, PCO 40 is the one I told you when we were first starting the project back in February. I said there's going to be one coming that we need to talk about, and we've actually talked to the attorney a little bit about this issue. And what I would suggest, your decision, is to go ahead and approve this. We're going to put it back up for the contractor because the work's got to happen. But we got to take it back at the 50% meeting when we review things with the architect and have it on the table. And we'll have our attorney review it further and let them advise us on how to proceed with it. But this is basically $95,000 change order, and the detail that was in the bid documents was this angle right here. And in their bid documents, they have a thing called, they got to adhere to the AISC, American Institute of Steel Construction. and also to PCI, which is Precast Concrete Institute. Both of those have I'm going to tell you why this is like this. Both of those have tolerances as it goes up the building. In other words, believe it or not, it can be out a quarter here or 3/8 there, and that may be the AISC tolerance. PCI tolerance is a little bit tighter, but they have that same tolerance for plumbness as it goes up the building. So many quarters of inches or fractions of an inch per foot as it goes climbs the building. So when you have a detail like shown on here, it's not constructible because it doesn't allow for the steel guy to be out a quarter and the precast guy to be in a quarter. There's a conflict. So there was much debate over this, how to reduce it, how to eliminate it. And then when you have a gap, you got to rate it because you got to have a fire rating between each structured floor. So you got a floor, it's got cells on it, 2 levels of cells, but the next floor up is a fire rated floor. So when you did that, this next page, and this is from Hilti, it's not a commercial for Hilti, but this is basically the detail that we arrived at. Okay. That's called the fire rating. And then I've included in your packet this drawing, and the red is basically the fire rating. And then that, and then at the ends of it where the rec areas are highlighted in green, and that's the security caulk. So paraphernalia will not be passed from one floor to the other. So you got to have not only the fire safing inside the building, but when they get outside into their rec area, we got to have security caulk. So the $95,000 is for that caulking and fire rating. And again, we're going to take that and throw it up there. We're having the attorney review it, but between us and the designer, we were going to talk about it then.
Some of that we would have had to pay for anyway, correct?
Some of it, if it had been in the job, yeah. There's another term that the attorney flew at. It's called care, custody, and control. I think of chain of control and custody. In that I can't tell you if it's a winnable thing or not, but they have the AISC specified and PCI specified. So I mean yeah. But some of it, I'd say you're not going to get off clean, but you may get something back. So we need to let the attorney review that further.
Will that report be available to the commissioners, sir?
Yeah. The attorney?
Yes,
report?
sir.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed by the date sheet that Miss Linda Briggs had submitted that she had related this back to July 29th, 2022. I'm curious, why didn't they catch all that then? Why it would have been hopefully a little bit cheaper?
So we started a project and found it in February last year, okay? And then it was a detail we could not construct and make the building work, okay? And so we've been working on it from February when we first found the detail until about June when we arrived. Actually, it's not that. It took us a long time, everybody looking up viable ratings to arrive at this UL rating. Got to have a UL rating. So they worked on it quite a long time, and then subcontractors have to, once we arrive at the rating and the contractor goes and gets his direction that this is what we're going to do, then he has to go out and get his subcontractors. So he had 2 subcontractors to get to him. One was the fire caulking guy, the fire safing guy, okay? And the other one's the security caulk. Security caulk's just to keep stuff from passing back and through. That's not as expensive as this. But there was a lot of debate about how far does it need back. We had to check the ASC tolerances, the PCI tolerances. And then he arrived at, and how much can you actually work between the floors to get into the joint and have that fire safing viable. So took a while to get that through. So we've known about this February of last year, but we got our pricing. We just now haggled over the pricing last month. So within the last 4 weeks or so. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other
So-
questions?
I'm sorry about every time I show up being the change order. I'd rather do the other thing. So, yeah. One commissioner's not invited me back, so. Any other questions?
How many more of these do we need to expect?
Well, it should slow down. Like I said, they should slow down and be more minor. There's issues that come up all the time, like this jig right here won't go with this gizmo right here, and we got to change it. But they should be slowing way down. I keep a track of what I call a PITS list, project issue tracking sheet, and lately it's not being added to very much. We still got some, and a lot of those that you don't see, we kind of just butted out into the. You know, if, for example, one of these change orders, you'll make the notes in your packet. It says the CEM, well, how did he put it? He was kind. The CEM has negotiated or reduced the cost or something like that. So a lot of that's back and forth before we get to here.
You made the statement quite a while back that the further up we got, the worse they would get, and I had assumed that meant more money. So do you expect that it will reflect a lot less than what we are seeing now?
Yes.
That's my next
yes.
question.
We're out of the ground. We're back in the known world. Down below the earth, we didn't know anything as we come up. And if I made that statement, I must have stuttered or something, because I meant to say as we come up out of the ground, it should slow down and get better. We've known this one for a while. We're just now getting the pricing and kind of we're fought over it and kind of agreed this is what it has to be. And so it should be a lot less stuff, but it will be stuff. So I hope it's not every time I show up.
Me too.
Mr. Chairman, we should, under our conversation earlier, we may get a potential credit back on the PCO 31, maybe,
Is that the
because
joint-
we didn't have some micropiles.
Oh, well, yeah, that's,
At some point in time.
there is an open micropile change order that we got to settle out. So right now, the contractor owes us about $4,000 in the just unit price depths and grout. So from that last change order, we kind of rounded, things were going, we kind of rounded it out, so.
So you can come back for that one.
Oh, absolutely. He knows he owes it to us, so he's got to settle that out.
Okay. That's good news, right? That's good news.
It's nothing like $95,000, but we get every dollar we can.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I hear a motion that we approve the change order.
I make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4C, adoption of the Hamblen Emergency Operations Plan 5-year review and update. Chris Bell.
We got a couple things, Chairman, Commissioners. Two plans are always have to be updated in Hamblen County every 5 years. One is our emergency operations plan. It's quite lengthy, so it takes a long time to get through it, but we have got it through. It's been approved by FEMA, just pending adoption by the local body. There are 16 ESFs. There's a basic, there's an intro. It goes from everything from sheltering to firefighting to law enforcement to sheltering to food to infrastructure to finance. Everything's in there in general. We get a general idea. We don't get too specific because we don't want to pin ourselves in. But every county in the state of Tennessee and in the state in the United States is supposed to have an emergency operations plan. So what you have before you is that document. Again, it has been approved by FEMA, pending approval by the local jurisdiction. Entertain any questions?
Any questions? If not, do I hear a motion, we adopt the...
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is that Ms. Howe?
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item D, the adoption of the Hamblen Hazard Mitigation Plan, 5-year review and update.
Here comes our second plan. It is the hazard mitigation. The key component of our hazard mitigation addresses all the hazards, whether that is man-made or natural, and tries to look at what we can do to mitigate that. The big idea behind this plan is that if we have a disaster in our area, this releases having a hazard mitigation plan approved and on file releases more funding to our jurisdiction from the federal side if we ever had something major happen. So our office takes care of that, updates that. We've got it at TEMA. The difference between the emergency plan and this is that we, the city and the county, both have to adopt it, then it goes to FEMA for final approval. So we've gone through this. FEMA has already, there's a letter in your documents that says TEMA has already adopted it and waiting on us pending approval from the local jurisdictions, then it goes on to FEMA. So I'll entertain any questions.
No questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Thomas Doty and
Huntsman.
Mr. Hunt.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Likewise. Motion passes. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. And we will now move to the Budget Committee. Chairman Horner of the Budget Committee, you are recognized, sir.
Okay, I call the Budget Committee to order. Anyone wishing to address the committee may do so at this time. No one? We'll move down to number 3 under new business. 3A, fiscal year 2023-2024, preliminary budget plan of action. We'll call Ms. Amanda Hill, our finance director.
In the packet, you'll find the letter presented by the mayor and myself regarding the upcoming budget, along with the calendar. Budgets will go out to the departments in March, and working with them in March just to see what their needs might be. And our meetings will start in May and June.
It's self-explanatory. Do we have any questions for myself and Ms. Hale?
Excuse me.
Do we need to vote on this? Okay. Look for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Somebody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you, sir. And we will now move to our Finance Committee. Chairman Hong, you're once again recognized.
We'll call our Finance Committee to order. Any visitors wishing to speak may do so at this time. I see none. Under recurring business, we have the expenditures report for January 2023. No action necessary on that. And review acceptance of monthly checks for 2023 submitted by the County Mayor's Office. Do I have a motion to accept?
Okay.
Got Mr. Huntsman second. Ms. Howell made the motion. Anyone need to address this? Mr. Mayor, do you need to address anything? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Under new business, we have 5A, grant contract between the State of Tennessee Department of Health and the Hamblen County Government. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started on this, and I'll address, in a presentation I'll make, I'll address items A, B, and C in it, all dealing with the new health department. But I want to just take a moment to brag on our finance team headed by Amanda now. We got the draft of our fiscal year 2022 budget audit last week, and it's a clean audit for the second year in a row, and I just want to brag on our finance team as well as on all the departments because it takes a team effort to get a clean audit, and so 2 years in a row we've gotten that. Also, good news in that let's see, you guys can read this on your screen. We built fund balance in the general fund as well by $1.1 million. So our fund balance in the general fund, which fund balance is your reserve. And this is what they call unassigned fund balance, which means that it's not reserved for a specific use. And so this can be used for other projects, and we'll talk about that later in this presentation. So our fund balance in the general fund as of June 30 of 2022 was $9.8 million, which is the most it's been. And you can see the trajectory of our fund balance over the last 6 years has been positive. So I think that that says a lot about our departments and how they manage their funds and how we budget, where you'll see during the budget process, our general theory on budgeting is we budget revenues low and expenditures high. And that's how we're able to build our reserves. Okay, what I want to talk about is the new health department and the location of the new health department, and bring a proposal to you. First is the location would be the Oak Tree Plaza Shopping Center out on Buffalo Trail. On the slide here, you can see the property that's included in this is 27.37 acres, and the building is over 48,000 square feet, almost 49,000 square feet. There's 2 tenants, the Family Dollar Store and Maddie's Bounce House are 2 paying tenants. Encore owns the facility now, and the cost to us would be $1.825 million, or $1,825,000. So that's, in a nutshell, what that's about. And what we would do with it is what I showed you last month, is we would renovate 12,000 square feet of the grocery store space for use of the health department. It would be designed the way the health department wants it as far as the space goes, so it's efficient for their use. Then there would be 9,000 square feet that would be renovated or could be renovated for office space for the county. And then there would be about 15,000 square feet of vacant space. And there'll be space that will not have any improvements to it during this first phase. And so you would have the 27 acres, the 49,000 square feet, the 2 tenants, the health department at 12,000 square feet, county offices at 9,000. The sheriff's department, we develop an impound lot in the rear of the building, and then have about 15,000 square feet of vacant space. One thing that by moving maybe some functions of county to this facility, we could get out from under a couple of leases and apply that money, or parts of that money. We'll save some of it, but apply some of it to the operating costs of this facility. So how do we pay for it? How do we pay for the property? is $1,000,001 would come from the sale of the health department to 911, and that's the match for the grant that we would provide. We would provide the property. That would be our match for the state grant. And then we would need to use either some fund balance from the general fund, or we could use some of the opioid settlement funds from the endo pharmaceutical settlement. Now, this is the settlement, the first one we received, that we received $1.8 million, $500,000 of it we committed to the recovery facility in the Tri-Cities up in Carter County at the former prison site. $500,000 will be discussed later this evening for a nonprofit that's going to support our recovery court. Then we spent $170,000 on the image machine for the jail, the scanner. So those monies have been used, but we do have this much money, $687,000 available of the endo money. Now, we have also been receiving over the last 3 or 4 months monies from the settlement with the drug distributors and Johnson & Johnson. And so we have those monies that can be applied and appropriated for other uses, like what I would want to make a priority would be to continue the Jail to Work program and to expand it to men once we have the Justice Center completed. So those monies we can hold on to and do that. But what I would suggest in this is, instead of using all general fund monies, is that we split it maybe 50-50. Usually half out of the general fund balance, and half of it out of the endo-opioid settlement money. So that'll be $687,500 for the purchase of the property. So you have your grant money, and then you have money that we have, cash that we have on hand, that we would use to pay for it. Any questions at this point before I go on?
Also, I think you and I talked about there, although we're not in the property management business, there is some rental income from Family Dollar and the Bounce House, correct?
Yes.
How much did you say that was?
I'll go
Around
into that.
10,000?
Well, no, it'll be more like 30. I'll go into that in just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
other
appropriate that the Bounce House is near the health department, but anyway.
And if we have the employee health clinic there too, we're covered there too. All we need is an insurance office there.
Got it cut.
Question, on the contract for sale, it says $1,007,050.
The $75,000 is the fee, the realtor fee.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay, so you add the 75,000 to that. Okay. And then the other thing I think we discussed earlier is the Davis-Bacon wages. Will this affect the way we fund this?
We're waiting on clarification on that, Mike, from the Department of Health.
Okay.
On can we use it? And what Mike's talking about is if we. What the Department of Health has told us in conversations is that if we use part of the American Rescue Plan money, if we fund our match through American Rescue Plan money, then that exempts us, even though federal money's being used for this project, and would normally have to, the contractors would have to use union wages, which would increase the cost of the project by about 10%. That if we use our American Rescue Plan money, that we can avoid that. What we're wanting to reach clarification on is if we use the match to buy the property instead of build, is that still, it's how we maneuver the money, that we're waiting on clarification for that. And also it'll depend on which buckets we get the money from for the match as well. Anything else?
Can you go back to the picture of it again? Yeah, that, okay. So UT so we're also paying for them to move there?
it's our obligation to supply ag extension office space.
I got that, but they'll be happy to move there. I just, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Manny and I've discussed it, and he jumped at the opportunity.
Okay.
Mayor, the two yellow blocks, is that the area that's not going to be developed at the first?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the
The
front.
blue areas are the areas that are going to be designed under the architect's contract.
Mhm.
And then our thought is, we would bid the project. The big blue block is the health department.
Sure.
So we bid the health department, and then we have an alternate in the bid for the office space.
I see.
So we come back, we bring the bid back here, and you guys decide whether you want to build it out or not.
Okay. Have you got any idea what that build-out would, I mean, what would we use the build-out for right now?
What we would, we would use for ag extension,
Okay.
or the employee health clinic, and then we'd have a vacant space that we could use.
That's why I didn't know if you had another entity in mind that could move
Not
there.
yet.
Not yet, okay.
Question, when we toured it, you said something about the sheriff's department being able to use so much of that for storage, if I didn't misunderstand. So which section, pardon?
What's this?
It's back in the back. That's in the gray area back here in the back, the impound locker.
That was my question.
It's not in the building.
Okay. Well, the gray building will have inside storage then for them to take care of that need as well?
There'll be all kinds of storage in the existing Justice Center.
Okay.
One question, Mayor. So when we remodel that, and I know you're going to talk about an architect here, but will they force us into the, like, Family Dollar and Bounce House to do additional updates on the codes, or?
You know, Rodney, I don't know. That's a good question. Now, from my understanding, is the whole shopping center sprinkled already, and that's a main issue. And I did talk to the city building inspectors, and I talked to the fire marshal, but I specifically talked to them about the health department space.
Okay.
And neither one of them had any red flags for that development, so I did talk to them.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Good question. Okay, so pay for the property using the sale of the health department building, the existing health department building, and then cash on hand. And here's the cost projections. And the Department of Health, Josh Gibson, many of you met him on the property when you toured. He's going to be here next week at the county commission meeting. He's developing a budget for us right now. And so the grant is $3.4 million is the grant. And then he estimated the cost per square foot at $250 per square foot. So at 12,000 square feet, that's $3 million. The architect engineering fee for the health department is $269,000. And then that leaves us the $143 for other costs, permitting, inspections, testing, that kind of thing. And so we'll have a better idea once Josh presents the budget to us that he has. And then, there's been a question too, and I asked him this question, and I think some of you did as well, about, if the bid comes in higher than this, will there be other monies available that the state could provide? And there's no guarantees, but there could be possibilities depending on what other counties do with monies that they're offered for the improvements to their health departments.
Bill, is the health department permanently where it's at now? Will they stay where they're at until this building is built for them?
Yes.
So when will the sale for the health department we got now sold then? I mean,
It would be next month. We're going to bring to you a purchase agreement between us and 911 for that property, where we would go ahead and commit to it, and they would pay us for the property, and we could go ahead and use it.
until this is built.
Right. And we'll bring that to you next month. All right, for the office space, again, this is using the $250 per square foot, 9,000 square feet. about $2.2 million. Engineering and architects' fees quoted by Barbara McMurray at $179 for this build-out, and that leaves $120,000 for other expenses. All right, so, how do we pay for that? That's a question that we would need to decide on. So as of last June 30, 22, our fund balance in general fund was $9.8 million. So if we use let's do a what if we use all fund balance to pay for be the cash that we use to buy the shopping center with, and that's the $687,500, and then we use cash on hand to do the renovation of the shopping center, that's $2.5 million. So that would reduce our fund balance in the general fund to about $6.5 million. And now, if we use half of the opioid money, half of the endo-opioid money, that would change that by over $300,000. So this just kind of gives you an idea of if we use the cash we have on hand, that's what it would do to our fund balance. And then we could borrow the money on a short-term note, the $2.5 million, if you want to do that, or part of it. It's not enough money to issue bonds for. And then, but before we did anything like that, we'd need to analyze to see if we needed more revenue in debt service to pay for it.
Bill, does this include the impound lot with all these numbers?
No. In conversations I've had with the sheriff, is the impound lot would be built with money from the drug fund.
So there'd be no cost?
Mayor, is there a fund balance minimum that we have established?
We don't have a formal
recommended
policy. What we practice is, and our goal is 25%, and we're at 45% right now. The 6.5, I did calculate that, Mike. The 6.5 is right at 28%.
So we'd still be above our limit.
Right, yeah. Any questions? And then here's some operating costs of the shopping center based on what Encore's expenses were during 2022. Is the utilities, the grounds, keeping the grounds, the mowing and so forth. Liability insurance, we talked to our liability insurance carrier, just the waste disposal, the dumpsters, and any building maintenance there may be. And then the lease payments, Chairman Hahn, is the 28.3. And the way that the Family Dollar Store lease works right now is that they pay 2% of their gross sales. And so what I anticipate is once the health department's up and going, that their sales will increase. And so that would help increase the lease payment that we get. And then the CAM charges, that's your charges that all the, well, just for example, the grounds, some of the liability insurance on the building, the waste disposal, the tenants pay a percentage of that. And that's what the CAM reimbursement is. So for a year and a half, let's say 2 years, we would have to subsidize the operations of the shopping center for about $11,000.
What lease payments is that going to relieve us of?
It'll relieve us of the employee health clinic, and that's about $1,600 a month. And then that the county clerk plans on keeping the satellite office until the Justice Center is open and we move the clerk's office across the street and she can have some space here, then she'll close that. We'll move Judge Boniface over to the new building, and so there's another $2,000 a month right there.
Will there be any savings on the present impound lot fee that we pay?
There's $5,000 there we won't pay.
Mayor, has there been any in-depth discussion with Family Dollar as far as their intentions?
No, I wanted to at least get past the committee.
Sure.
And see if, you know, this is what the commission wanted to do, then I was going to contact them. I've got the contact information.
Okay,
I have talked to the Bounce House folks, but I have not talked to the Family Dollar.
okay.
That's all that I have, Mr. Chairman, on, as far as presentation goes. I guess the first act of business would be approval of the contract with the Department of Health.
Move back to item A, it'll be a grant contract between the State of Tennessee Department of Health and Hamblen County Government.
Make a motion.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Richardson. Second from Commissioner Harville. Any additional, excuse me, let's go ahead and vote this out, because I think we've discussed it, haven't we? Anybody else have anything, you know? Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Now we move down to item 5B, the purchase agreement for Oak Tree Plaza and the contract for sale that the mayor has gone over thoroughly. Do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion.
Got a motion for Mr. Huntsman. Got a second? Second. Second for Mr. Doty. Is there any discussion at all?
I've got a couple of things. I was looking through the contract, and there's a couple of dates in there that we have to close this thing by the end of February. Is that possible?
That's good.
Okay. And there was two dates in there. One was the 28th, one was the 23rd. It may be a typo, but it's on item 4.
See, the 23rd, I think, there is, we do have to pay a, what's the word? Earnest payment, yeah.
Okay.
And that would be the day after the commission meeting. We would pay that and deliver the
And
agreement.
This first thing here talks about the lease for Family Dollar stores. This bottom, Bill Joe Green, is that the Bounce House?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is moved. Item 5C, contract with Barbara McMurray Architects LLC for Health Department project. Mayor Britt.
This is the architectural firm that was chosen for this project several months ago through an RFQ process. And so once we received the draft Health Department contract, I approached Barbara McMurray about giving us a price for their services. The total price for designing both the Health Department and the 9,000 square feet of office space is $448,455. 60% of it's for the Health Department, and 40% of it's for the office space. I asked the question, what if, and mentioned to them the idea of bidding the office space as an alternate. What if the commission decided not to do that? Then we would pay 80% of the money for the office space, because 20% of the contract services is the construction oversight. This is the price they've given me, $448,445.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept this?
Did you have a question?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
With the 20% being the construction administration, we won't need an additional project manager.
No, not for a project this size.
Okay.
We've got you.
Not mine.
I can bring you a change order. If Mr.
Any
Reed
other-
allows it.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone else? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5D, Resolution 23, the resolution authorizing the termination of an interest rate swap agreement. Is Chris here? Chris Bessler? Okay, Chris Bessler from Cumberland Securities.
Thank you, Chairman Juan, Commissioners. Chris Bessler, Cumberland Securities, Knoxville, Tennessee. Good to see everybody again. In front of you is a resolution to terminate the county's existing interest rate swap agreement. This swap agreement has been on the county's books now going back over 20 years. It is tied to the Series E4A loan, and that loan goes out to June 1st of 2025, so it's only got a few more years left on it. The county originally entered into this interest rate swap agreement in January of 2002, so exactly 21 years ago. It did so as to work as a hedge against the variable rate of interest that was on the underlying bonds. The county was in the process of implementing the BEP at that time and getting a number of bond issues for schools. Did variable rate bonds through construction, only paid interest on what it drew down, and then instead of just refunding with fixed rate bonds, the county commission at this time decided to do an interest rate swap agreement to do a hybrid fixed rate on it. That was significantly less expensive than just doing traditional fixed rate bonds at the time. The term of the interest rate swap agreement has the county paying a fixed rate of interest to the counterparty, which in this case is a bank called Deutsche Bank, while the counterparty pays the county a variable rate of interest that it then uses to pay the variable rate it has on the bonds. The variable rate of interest that the county receives from the counterparty is based on the 5-year London Interbank Offered Rate, also known as LIBOR. LIBOR is an interest rate average calculated from estimated rates that are submitted by leading banks from around the world based on their own lending rates to one another. It's estimated that there were at least $200 trillion worth of financial contracts outstanding that were tied to LIBOR as recently as 2020. A few years ago, various regulators, mainly in Europe and the United States, decided that LIBOR needs to be done away with, and they set a firm deadline of 2021 to be away and do away with LIBOR. That firm deadline got pushed to June 30th of this year, and they are saying that this is indeed firm, and we have every indication to believe that that is so. Most banks have been whittling out their LIBOR contracts during this time. The county's underlying loan on this, the Series E4A itself, was also tied to LIBOR, but a couple of years ago we got that converted away from LIBOR. So this is the county's last remaining exposure to LIBOR. The options before the county on dealing with this are, there's two main options. We've gone through a number of options. We've talked with Deutsche Bank, we've talked with Echo Financial, which has served as the county's independent swap advisor as well. The county could choose to keep the swap in place, and to do that it would require an amendment to the swap. It would cost about $125,000 is our estimate to do that and keep the swap in place. This would keep it in place all the way to June 1 of 2025 when the swap matures and the bonds mature. The process for doing that has not actually been completed yet by the federal entities that are involved in setting this. The other alternative would be simply to terminate the swap altogether. The cost to do this would be, right now, estimated between $200,000 to $210,000, and that's essentially just paying the interest on this loan that you would otherwise be paying through 2025. So instead of paying it spread out over the next 2.5 years, you would just be paying that now at once. You'd be done with LIBOR, you'd be done with Deutsche Bank, and it would just revert to the pure variable rate. So that is what you have before you, is authorizing the termination of this LIBOR interest rate swap.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
We got a second, Mr. Doty. Do we have any discussion?
Yes,
Questions?
Mr. Bessler, as being our financial consultant, do you have a direction that you prefer? I mean, I see the cost here, the lower cost of 125 is just get us into another swap. Or we can pay the difference of our interest right now and go with variable rate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is there go ahead.
Yes, sir. Our recommendation would be
Yes.
to simply to terminate. Be done with LIBOR, be done with Deutsche Bank. They ended up taking over this swap from Raymond James Financial Products, and it's I've been working with Deutsche Bank, just trying to go through the various options here, and they are a bank in disarray, to say the least. They're difficult to work with, and it would be good for the county from a number of perspectives. One, you wouldn't have to deal with Deutsche Bank, which has its own benefits. The county's audit would also be much more simple without having to report on this interest rate swap agreement. You would save ongoing costs. It's a couple $1,000s every year that the county has to pay just to have an independent swap advisor do various calculations on the swap and provide that to your auditors. It adds a couple pages to your audit, actually just having that. From a credit standpoint, Moody's investor company, they provide the rating on the county's bonds. It would also be a credit positive in their view as well. The county has healthy fund balance already to alleviate any concern with the variable rate. When the interest rate swap was done originally, the county had significantly more variable rate debt on its books. Now it's hardly got any.
Could you answer also, if we chose to do this, Mayor, would that come out of our general fund possibly, or is this reverted back?
It would come out of debt service.
Debt service?
We have over 13 million in fund balance.
Okay. There you have it, Commissioners.
What's the balance of the note that's due in 5 years?
Right now, the balance is $5.5 million, but on this June 1st, there will be about a $1.7 million principal payment reduction on it.
So if we do this $200,000 hit, we still have to go somewhere and find a bank or a variable rate or a fixed rate or something to finance this with.
This swap is actually separate from the bond that you already have in place.
Okay.
And so this just does away with that interest rate swap agreement, and then all that's left is that simple bond that you have. There's nothing else to do, so you wouldn't have to go find it. That's already in place until the loan matures.
Okay.
Okay, so paying the interest, the 210,000 early, do we get any kind of savings on?
Rebate, refund?
Great question. So by the nature of the underlying bonds being variable rate, it's hard to say what that's going to look like, but so long as variable rates come in under 4.25%, you should at least be at a break even. If they come in at 3.25% over the remaining life of the loan, at that point, the lower it gets, the more ahead you get. One other item to think about here as well is back in 2019, there was a lot of lawsuits, class action lawsuits that took place on LIBOR because the banks were found to have artificially inflated the LIBOR. And so as part of that settlement, the county received $400,000 that got put to its debt service fund as a payment from Deutsche Bank. Now, the irony of that is the higher LIBOR is, the more you benefit. So the county benefited from their bad deeds, and then they paid you for it on top of it. So don't ever expect that to happen in the financial industry again. That's the one shot that'll probably ever happen.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, we'll vote this. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's moved. Thank you, Mr. Bessler. Item 5E, request for funds appropriated from the endopharmaceutical opioid settlement. from the 3rd Judicial Recovery Support Services, Dr. Osadnia, Penny Knight, and Don Barr, officer of the 3rd Judicial Recovery Support Services Incorporated.
It's a mouthful.
All right, Doc.
Sure is. Thank you, Chairman. I know you've got a very busy agenda tonight, so I'm not going to take too much of time. You know, people right behind me, and they're going to also talk a little bit about this stuff. As you recall, we came to you guys requesting some money, and I think it was in August, for the residential area for the support group for the drug recovery court. And at that point, we asked you all to earmark a certain amount of money, which was about $500,000 for this residential areas that we were thinking about finding, and giving you all a proposal after we found these areas, and come back to you and show you what we have found and get your approval at that point. So I'm here to, as a follow-up for that proposal that we had. We've been busy actually since August, and part of the reason we've been busy was two things. One, obviously we wanted to take our time to find the right properties for the county itself, for these people, for the people that are going to benefit from this program. Of course, we wanted to be the good steward of the money that you all are allowing us to go ahead and do this. The other thing is we were also wanting to make sure that we were hoping that some of the housing markets and everything like that will go down because of the downturn in the economy. So we're not paying as high of a price. Back in August, we could wait and see it. So it's taken us a little bit to find them. It's taken us, looking at a lot of properties to find the exact ones that we feel is going to work for this program. So after going through an exhaustive thing, the judge and everybody else and the mayor and everybody looking at a bunch of different places, getting nitty-gritty, dirty, and finding all these different places, I think we've come up with a property or a couple of properties that I think are going to work for this program. And I think I'll leave this to Ms. Knight here to give you a little bit of the, you have it in your proposal where the site of these properties are, but she can tell you why these things I think will work for our program and what the benefits of these would be from our standpoint and for the participant in the program.
Very briefly, the properties are right in the middle of town, right across really from the Blossom Shop. Within a couple of miles, the bus route, they have access to the bus route because most of the people we serve or participate in our program have issues with transportation, getting their license back. They could get to HISEC classes, they can get to work, they can get to their meetings, they can get to the courthouse, they can get to the Justice Center. There's pretty much not anywhere they can't get on foot if they have to, even when the buses aren't running on the weekend. And of course, it's close to us for supervision. It's literally 2 or 3 blocks, I think, from our office here. And so it's a great property. We were looking at something a little bit further out that would have at least taken us 20 or 25 minutes sometimes during traffic to get to it one way.
Is that on High Street or West 3rd?
High. 315 and 321, I think.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask a question, about I remember in August you had said something about, they need to be away from their buddies. High Street's also close to the jail.
It is, but retired Judge Seals lives 2 houses behind it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of mix there. It's just literally across right there. And one of the hardest things about recovery, we do have people who are in recovery not in our community. It's harder to recover in the community, but not everybody qualifies to not be in the community. They have to start trying in the community because insurance purposes or grant purposes, there's nowhere for them to go to recovery. So we have to start them here. Some people, a majority of our people are successful, over 50% are successful in the community.
Have they not just remodeled some of that there?
Yes. And our 501c actually applied for a grant for anything else that would need to be done. We applied for put in for like $121,000 for upgrades, and that's, Commissioner Hahn has a packet that we don't want to cause a bunch of confusion, that the 501c applied for this grant for the upgrades, the majority of the upgrades. I think the contract includes new roofs.
May I? So, to answer your question, actually, so a lot of renovations have been done. Now, some of the things that we have to do is very minimal. We're certainly going to stay within the 500,000 that has been allowed. Now, the contract says 420,000 on these properties, but there's some things that has to be done to bring it up to what we need. One of the properties only has 2 bedrooms and 1 bath, so we're talking about maybe adding another bedroom and a half bath to it so that it's workable, so that it increases that, and it needs an HVAC on it. So that on that one, and it needs some insulations. But again, it's minimal stuff for one property, which is in the 315 North High Street, and the other one needs actually 2 HVACs because the HVACs are actually not they're not good, and we need 2 of them on those. One a ductless and one with and one without. And we also need to add a full bathroom to that. But again, with those 2 additions, these are all estimates. It's going to be around $75,000, which with the $420,000 will be, again, we will still be below the $500,000 to do. So we're not going to go above that. In regards to, of course, she mentioned something about as far as grants and everything like that. We are applying. We've applied to some grants, and we've worked very diligently to do that. Federal grants and stuff from the state of Tennessee also, to see if they can help us with some of the operational cost of these things. But again, we're going to be doing, those are not something that the county has to worry about. We really need to start out with a place that, in all the stuff that we can put in there, and then we could always do fundraisers. That's the job of our 501c. And as far as the other thing that we want to add and make sure, we're working with the mayor and also Mr. Capps as far as how we're going to do this, whether, there's going to be, as far as the contract goes, because the bottom line is this is the county has given us money, and we're going to be the steward of it. I mean, we want to be good stewards of it, but on the other hand, we also understand that hopefully one day, if we don't need these programs and the Hamblen County doesn't need it, of course, this could all revert back to the county itself, and it will be the county's property. So that's something that we have, or...
Something, might I just for 1 second?
Yes.
There was some concern expressed about what would happen to these properties. We're shelling out $500,000 for this. What would happen if the drug recovery court system ceased to exist? And said, well, we would want that property to come back to the county. We certainly want that money back. And so, as it is originally put together, it was their 501c3 buying from the current owners of that property. But what we think will be better is for the county to purchase that property from the owner and immediately convey it to the 501c3. The reason being, we will put in the deed itself what's called a right of reverter, so that if it ceases to be used for the specific purpose of the 501c3, it will, by operation of law, come back to the county. And so that's one of the things that is kind of cropped up fairly recently, so it's kind of a surprise to folks as to how we would want to do it, but that seems to be the better way to carry this out, that we take title to it, but immediately would convey it back to the 501c3, so that we would put in our deed to them that right that we would recover the property when it ceases to be used for the purpose.
Chris, what about the upgrades and improvements to that when it goes back, if it ever came back to us? How would that?
Presumably that value would come back to us if that were to be the case.
Even though it's their money they spent?
Obviously,
yeah.
I mean, this is for the county. We want everything is for the county. So even if we do the fundraisers and everything like that, obviously that goes back to the county. I mean, that has to be.
If those monies were not used
Yeah.
for that purpose?
Oh, no, you're talking about if we.
Well, just if you build on-
If we do fundraisers. And of course, it's gonna go with the property. It's not gonna be like.
Can't take it
we're-
away, right?
Oh, no. we're not
That
gonna-
would, that would be a benefit to us. I mean,
Okay.
ultimately, the benefit to the county is gonna be this drug recovery
Correct.
court. And we don't want it to fail, and we don't want it to cease to exist based upon what we understand its purposes are. So, but if it did, and we get this property back, we would get the benefit of whatever they've done to it, obviously.
Really, my part of this is just to, I guess, tell you the importance of this house, or these two houses, these two properties, like you were asking, close in town. They checked 2 boxes for us. My office, we're taking 5 people this week to rehab. I've got one that has a family structure they can move back to, that they may have a chance. Most of them don't. So this provides us an opportunity to bring some of these folks back to a safe place to live. So that gives us an opportunity to watch and be a part of their recovery. The second box is location. They're right down the street. We've got them for compliance issues. We want a drug test. We want to take them to work. Just different things that they have to do. They're right here close to us. We don't have to go out somewhere way out and do it. They're right here close. So these 2 properties, they check both boxes for me personally and for this organization. I just ask for y'all to approve that. I think it'll be a good thing for the county. Yes, ma'am.
I remember in August, but how many are from Hamblen County, and you mentioned something about others? So how are?
Participants?
Yes, sir.
We're up to 27. 2 are absconded currently. We know where one is at. 5 are in residential recovery courts, such as y'all have agreed to give the residential facility in Carter County. We've got 4 women in Nashville and 1 male headed to Morgan County this week. The other 20 they're either here or they're close by. I think we've got somebody in Blount County, somebody in Knox County, 3 in Knox County, I think, at houses such as what we're setting up here. And we're discovering after a year and a half into this that we have a whole lot more success and more control if they're here underneath our thumb than they are when they're an hour drive away.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
How many will you be able to put in these houses?
One with the renovations would be 5, and the other would be 7 would be the max. Or 7 and 6. I think it's 7 and 6, 13 total.
What is the length of stay you think they would, well, in a perfect world?
Well, if we get this grant, part of the grant was for long-term housing. Even if they graduated our program and they had nowhere else to live, they would be paying a program fee to continue living there because it's long-term.
Okay.
So, of course, our desire is for them to grow and to be out on their own.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about this last time. The thing about this is that they have a skin in the game. They have to pay rent. They have to, pay for utility. They have to mow the lawn. They have to. And of course, we have supervising of that, and we watch and make sure. And they still have to come and do their drug tests, and they have to come to their therapy sessions, and they have to go. So it's all, and of course, they have to continue to work. And those are all benefits to our county when they're working locally. There are a lot of them who are going now to TCAT, welding, HVAC systems. These are all things that it makes it, being this location, being so central to it, and getting to those areas is very important for these guys, and for us, and in general, these are people who are going to be sitting in jail, and they're not there, and now part of the community doing these things.
Mr. Holmes?
We really appreciate that. Let's move this forward now. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Harville.
Second.
Do I have a second? Mr. Long.
Mr. Long.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments? This. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. And let me say before you guys leave, I think it comes from each one of us here and all the citizens of this county. This is so appreciated. And I know you put a ton of hard work into it, and the unfortunate item is we need it. Wish we didn't, but we do, and so we appreciate people like you that take the bull by the horns and get something done. If you've ever had anybody that you cared about go through a situation like this, which most people have, then they certainly understand the necessity. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you guys, and thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
We're going to have our first graduation sometime this early fall, and it'll be an open invitation for y'all to attend, so.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, item 5F, resolution to apply the ELC grant for confinement facilities. Mayor Britton?
But before I get to that, Mr. Chairman, a couple of things I just want to be clear on. On the last motion, the approval was to appropriate the money for the purchase of the homes, and then the county buying. Okay, all right. And then second, one thing that as far back to the health department, on the cash money that we would use to purchase the property. I need some direction on where to get the cash from, and whether you want to use all general fund balance, you want to split it among the fund balance and the opioid settlement money,
Mayor,
so that we can present.
What are the pros and cons?
Well, he gave us a suggestion to go half, and I was going to ask to half out of general fund and half out our opioid money. So, once we do that, your recommendation, how do you feel about the opioid, what's left in that money, and
Well, we've got the endo money. There'll be $300,000 left of that, and I think I'll have some ideas in the budget, mostly for jail to work program for that.
How restrictive is the endo money?
The endo money has no restrictions on it. Now, some of the opioid abatement money coming out of Nashville has restrictions on it. Okay, but the endo money does not. And then the other money, the opioid abatement money that's coming out of the national settlements, we've received, later this month, we'll receive another payment of about $250,000. We'll have around $700,000 in that fund, so, in that money. But, so, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I just want to be clear, you know, exactly where you want us to get the money, and then we'll present a budget amendment at the commission meeting. So is it half and half? Is that what you want?
So we want to vote on that, recommend that?
I do, yes.
We already voted on it?
we did, and this is Chairman
This
Hall's.
was a clarification of what we voted on.
I still think you're going to check into the federal Davis Bacon, because that could affect.
It could affect, yes. Yeah, depending on what the interpretation is on the application of the Bacon-Davis Act.
Okay.
That could affect it too, but we'll have a budget amendment at the commission meeting.
Mayor, what about the house in Highland Drive? Then if we buy that house, how much is that gonna cost us?
I think what's before you, it's what you're committing is $500,000 to buy two houses and to renovate them.
I think he said 460 something.
Or something.
It was 460.
We got it.
Up to 500,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Sorry.
ELC.
On the ELC. The Sheriff's Department has done a great job in the last month, really searching for grants for our jail. And what this grant is through the state of Tennessee, and it's to buy equipment for jails to help avoid or prevent opioid spread in the facilities. And what we're planning on, I think, and Chad, you correct me if I'm wrong, you and Teresa, we're talking about PPE mattresses, or is that mattresses? A body scanner with temperature. Is that out of this one? Yes. And then and a transport vehicle. That's right.
What's a PV mattress?
Yeah.
What,
What
ma'am?
kind of mattress was that?
Mattresses?
That you were saying?
Just, we're going to buy
Jail mattress.
several hundred mattresses that goes in the jail
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nothing special.
that we can use in the new jail too.
Right, I got it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I think and also with this grant, what we're asking for is permission to apply for it. Is we've also are looking at requesting $50,000 in the same grant to replace the HVAC in the annex and improve the air circulation. And so these have been tentatively approved. We just gotta get your permission to apply for it and then submit the application.
This is 100% grant, Mayor?
Yes, 100%.
No match funds?
No match.
Let's,
Now, it is, though, we have to buy it and they reimburse us.
do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Doty, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Richardson, do you have any other questions of the mayor, comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Move down to item 5G, a resolution approving and adopting a court cost to defray costs incurred by the Public Defender's Office. Mr. Todd Estep, there, Public Defender.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Great to be here today to see all of you again, a lot of familiar faces. The resolution before you, the way that 1250 works, just to give you an idea, there was information there in the packet, but where we're a four-county district, the county clerk, the circuit clerk's office rather, collects the money as it comes in. There's a hierarchy, so the public defender's office is on the lower end, so the county's going to get the money that goes to it from the circuit court clerk on court costs before we do. And then once it does go to us, it's collected and kept in our at the conference level for the public defender's office across the state. I make application to that for different expenditures, and it gets approved that way. Only Hamblen County money gets spent in Hamblen County. It doesn't go anywhere else. To give you an idea, I'm a product of the 1250 program. When I first was licensed as an attorney, I worked as a part-time public defender in the First Judicial District, and that's what this fund would do. Now, my personal vision as your public defender is to look at the specific needs of Hamblen County and try to plug the holes that we may have. Now, I can't brag on Hamblen County enough and what they're doing with recovery court programs and things that you've just talked about and that you highlighted, Commissioner Hahn, because they are extremely important. And I know that Sheriff Mullins is a big proponent as well, as he has served on the recovery court program here in Hamblen County. To give you an idea of what I want to do is I'm going to need a part-time social worker in this county to help my forensic social worker with delegating authority of different things that we need to get done so that we can help our clientele. I think the biggest need that I see right now in Hamblen County is you'll have folks that'll have a misdemeanor offense, they'll be on probation, they'll pick up a new misdemeanor, and then they've got to flatten that first misdemeanor out. So they're going to end up spending around 292 days in jail, and then they're going to come back out on another probation. Well, to have that amount of life disruption, things like housing, food, and where you're going to go to work when you get done with that 290 days is sometimes a big haul for some of our clients. And so that's what I want to address first. So one of the things that we want to do is be able to provide the people when they're about 90 days from finishing that sentence a packet of information, a face to see, so that we can start working on job applications, finding out where we could try to get them some housing if they don't have a family that will help them in that particular area. The main goal is to attack recidivism. We want to give people the best chance that they can have to complete a probation and get out of that cycle and not fill up our jail. Okay, so that's kind of where I see the biggest need in Hamblen County, but there could be others. Certainly, when I look at our caseload numbers here are higher in Hamblen County than any district in any county in our district. Now, I'm working with the state legislature and the governor's office for that particular purpose through our conference. But we may, if I don't get relief there, then, a part-time attorney would definitely be needed in this county. And so those are just two examples of the things that this money would go to support. Now, Ms. Green, I talked to you outside earlier and I misspoke. It is on a charge basis. So if somebody came through and let's say they had a rash of charges, so they may have one case number, but they may have two charges, so they would get assessed this $12.50 fee twice, so they'd owe $25 in that court cost. Now, the circuit court clerk, since they're handling that money, as they're taking it in and then cutting a check and sending it to Nashville, they get a small percentage of that as a handling fee. And I can't remember, I apologize right off the top of my head, but they get a certain percentage of that. So we'll actually get a little less than $12.50 per charge. I think that sums up what I had in the packet. I'd be glad to answer any questions from any commissioner.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second? Second. We got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Discussion.
Oh, excuse me, that's right, discussion. We didn't get our discussion, we got out of order there. Anybody have any questions or discussion for Mr. Astead?
How much money are we spending?
Sorry?
How much money are we spending here?
You're not spending any. This
We're
is
just
a user
redirecting.
fee.
Yeah.
So what happens is
Redirecting.
folks that are charged with a criminal offense that get a conviction, those are the only people that pay it. It's not, it doesn't go to, no taxpayer pays it, they get
Then
charged.
you got money to pay an extra person that you need to go around.
Yes, that comes, I would use this money. The reason I'm asking for it now is that I'll have to accumulate it over probably maybe a year, depending on how much is coming in. Because if I hire somebody, I don't want to only hire them for 2 or 3 months and
Right.
have to let them go. So we've got to accumulate the fund over time. But it would be a part-time position with our office, and as far as I'm concerned, people from Hamblen County will have first dibs.
Mr. Eastep, would that, excuse me, did I jump in front of somebody? Will that money go into a specific fund and you're keeping that like a tab
Yes.
that the community could know?
So it goes to the Tennessee Public Defenders Conference, and our finance director provides me a report every quarter where that fund is, or any time that I ask for it.
Sure. Well, I like the idea of working on recidivism, and I understand the whole point here, and you have a tough job.
Well, it is tough, but it's very rewarding. We're not going to turn everybody we come into contact with.
Sure.
But there's plenty of times, Chairman, when you're looking at somebody and you can tell that they're at the bottom, and they just need something that they've lost. A lot of folks have burnt all their bridges with their family, and so there's people there that we can help. That's what I'm trying to do.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I know you said you're in the third judicial district, which is Hawkins, Hancock, Greene, and Hamblen. Are you getting any funds from the other counties?
Greene and Hawkins County both will pass this additional funding source.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. So this is coming from the Hamblen County person who messed up.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember a friend of mine who messed up, and she said, I've got to go to the probation officer. So I don't know if it's the sheriff thing or a you thing. But anyway, and I said, my golly, I'm sure you'll get there at 3:30 when you're finished work. She said, oh my gosh, no. I have to go at 1 o'clock. And I said, but you have a job. And she said, you have no idea what would happen to me if I didn't get there at 1 o'clock. And that's a problem. Because she had a job. She had a bed. She had a refrigerator. And I'm thinking, what? You know, you know, we have some services that do stay late, and I don't know how to fix that. And I hope 1250 does it.
Well, I wish it would, but
Yeah.
it won't, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
So you have, for your misdemeanor court, you have a contract with essentially a supervising agency. Okay, typically that's either EFRA or one of those types of places. And then when you get to the state level, criminal court, felonies, so you'll have probation and parole, which is a state entity. And then you may have a secondary contract with somebody that if there's misdemeanors that have come up to criminal court and there's a resolution there. And so those are the entities that cover probation meetings and things like that. And they ought to work with folks that are working in those time frames. Now, one of the things that we're doing in Greene County that we don't have to do here, to give you an idea of what 1250 would be like, here you have Helen Ross McNabb. And so if the judge orders someone to do an alcohol and drug assessment, you can go to Helen Ross McNabb and it doesn't cost you a thing. Now in Greene County and in Hancock County, that's not the case. It costs $194 to have an alcohol and drug assessment in Greene County with Frontier Health. My social worker, who is a licensed mastered social worker, she can provide those services free of charge to our clientele. So we're going to be able to save them $194 a pop. Same thing with folks in Hancock County. They don't have anybody up there that can do that. So we're going to be doing that through telehealth, through Zoom, FaceTime, things like that, so that the folks in Hancock County can have access to that. And so the judge can then refer them, and most likely they're going to end up coming down here to Hamblen County or over to Granger, I would imagine, Clayton County at best. So that's the thing. We've got to identify each area where we can help fill a small gap. And if we fill enough of them, there'll be more than 50% being covered.
Okay, I'm hoping. I'm going to hold you on that one, thank you.
I certainly hope so. That's our goal.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, we'll vote this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Item 5H, budget amendments with our finance director, Amanda Hale. Oh, yes. Let's move on down here to Ms. Tracy. I'll read this out. 5H1, Hamblen County Board of Education Budget Amendment Number 4, an increase of $53,584.20.
This grant for the general fund, this amendment for the general fund includes 3 grants. The Miller Boyd Alternative School received a $1,500 grant from Knoxville TVA Credit Union for supplies and materials. The district received our annual grant from U-Trust for $35,500 to be used for student and staff recognition, and that would include middle school scholars banquet, meetings and activities for the youth leadership program, employee recognition for longevity, teachers of the year, principals of the year, those types of activities. And the last grant, $16,584, is a STEM grant from the Tennessee Department of Education for our CTE programs for 2 of our middle schools, and those will provide screen printing equipment for those middle schools to allow those students to learn how to use that equipment. And I'll be happy to answer questions on that one.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Doty. A second? Mr. Reed. Any questions, comments of Ms. Antrican? Well explained. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Moved. Item 5H2, Hamblen County Board of Education Budget Amendment Number 3, School Nutrition Program increase of $15,976.95. Sandra.
This amendment represents funds from the USDA to the school nutrition program through the State Department, and these funds are to be used for supply chain assistance, increases in food costs.
Eggs.
Milk.
Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Richardson, the second. Mr. Huntsman. Any questions, any comments? I don't think that's hardly enough to buy eggs with, but.
Is the milk 2% whole milk or?
Coming from a dairy farmer.
If we have that information, I'll be glad to find out for you.
Okay. Yeah, well, there's some easy protein there. Okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. 5H3, Fund 101, County Commission, $3,000. Now, we have Ms. Hale.
Chairman Hahn, this budget amendment is just to increase medical insurance for the county commissioners, $3,000. With the change in commissioners this year, there's been an increase in medical costs for your all's group. So there is extra in the state retirement line, and that's just for reallocating to cover the additional medical.
Have a motion to accept.
So moved.
Mr. Cutchild, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Richardson. Do we have any questions of Ms. Hale? Outstanding. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Item 5H4, Fund 116, Garbage Sanitation Department for $50,000. Mr. Poole.
This is for a engine for a brush and junk truck, 2013 Freightliner. The engine will have a 5-year warranty on parts and labor. We had it analyzed. It's the only thing we can do with it. It's probably got a cracked block. I think it's got about twice as much engine coolant in it than it should have. So had some analysis done, and this is our alternative.
Do I have a motion to accept?
Yeah.
Second. Mr. Reed, second.
Mr. Long,
Oh, Mr. Long?
I'm sorry, did Mr. Doty get that? I'm
I
sorry.
do not know. Rodney was first. So Mr. Long.
Okay.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Poole?
Mr. Poole, do we get more than one estimate when we do these engines and that, or do you?
Well, it's a Cummins engine, and we got an estimate from Cummins and from Freightliner, and we've got another estimate. We've got 3.
And this was the lowest estimate?
Yes.
Did you say there were too much coolant in the block? Did that contribute to it?
That indicates the cracked block.
Crack block, yeah.
Okay, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
either,
know.
but I'm sorry.
I know you're supposed to put oil in the radiator and
Yeah.
gas in the washer fluid. Okay. That was my question.
One thing I would like to say here, I talked to Mr. Poole about this. I think we're reaping, not replacing these trucks on a regular schedule. That was done in the previous years, quite a few years back. So now we're facing a 2013 model, is that correct?
Yes.
A 10-year-old truck, and we're fixing to drop close to $50,000 in it. I think we need to get with Mr. Poole. We need to get back on a schedule where we're replacing these buses. Now, it'll take time and money to dig us out of that. But we're sitting here dropping $50,000 into a 10-year-old truck.
That's a good point.
So I think we've got to get back on that schedule. It was at one time.
Exactly.
Agree 100.
Am I correct, Mr. Poole?
Chairman,
So,
may I address?
Mr. Cutshaw?
I think, Mr. Poole, would you please work with us at that time and come back during budget season and maybe we can discuss what we need to do. Speaking with the mayor at one time, even if we put this in place, what I understand, it doesn't mean you have to upgrade a vehicle, but if it's at that limit and on the verge of causing issues, then we look. But that only makes good sense, so I agree with Commissioner Long.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
We put $50,000 into this engine. Where does that put us at with that truck? Is it roadworthy or?
It'd be roadworthy, yeah, it'd be in good shape. It's actually only about 46,000 is what it's gonna cost, but, well, yeah. But it'll be ready to go at that point.
And this delivery time on that?
I don't know exactly. I think there's 6 weeks is talked about, but I don't know. We think we can speed it up if we get a little, we've got a contact, so we'll try to speed it up.
Mr. Poole, do we not have anybody in our county garage that we could just buy the motor and put it in ourselves, or is this for the labor and everything for this engine?
That's the labor and everything. We don't have anybody qualified to do that. We have a person we're contracting to do that, and for a couple of months now, he's been coming to our shop and working on some things because he's got the technology to do that, and the experience to really help us out. But you know, if we had that kind of technology at the garage, we'd be talking about.
I mean, that's something we need to look at too. I agree with Rodney. You know, we're putting $46,000 in a 10-year-old vehicle. What keeps, once we put this new engine in, next we're gonna be buying a transmission for the same truck, 6 months to a year down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. When you get a vehicle that old, you're looking at those type of possibilities.
How much of that 46,000 is labor cost?
I think it's about 8,000.
Do we have any other questions?
Mr. Poe, what is the rate of pay for your person that comes in at this point per hour?
Per hour. I believe it's $110 per hour. I'll have to double check that, and I might be telling you wrong, but I believe that's right.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's vote this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Item 5H5, Fund 120 Drug Control Fund, $7,200.
Chairman, this is a budget amendment to move $7,200 to cover the cost of a new narcotics vehicle. The sheriff wants to speak on that.
This is a vehicle that our narcotics unit uses to make traffic stops and that sort of thing. They're using Sheriff Jarnigan's old Tahoe 2012. It's got about 170-some thousand miles. It's given a lot of problems, becoming unsafe. This would be no money coming out of anything but the seizure account. What these guys are out doing, seizing and forfeitures, is coming out of the drug fund. Checked with Murfreesboro Ford, which has the state contract, and we can get the vehicle tomorrow for $38,086. Brand new, and it's not a civilian model, it's a police interceptor. It's got the upgraded brake system. The row is fully equipped for a pursuit-rated issue.
It's a Dodge Challenger?
No, it's a Ford Explorer.
Ford Explorer, okay.
That's what we're going to, Fords, right?
That's, yes.
Yeah.
We had the guys to go look at used cars. They found a 2020 civilian model that the sticker price was $38,000. They get a brand new 100,000 mile warranty for $38,086, same price.
Okay, very good.
And each one of you should have a packet with all that information, the
We sure
warranty,
do.
the state bid and everything.
Now, what are you gonna do with the old vehicle?
It will be surplus. And sold
Surplus
to
out.
goods.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion,
I'll second it.
Motion in a second.
Oh, I thought we had already done it. Not,
No,
okay.
no. Yes,
Mr. Huntsman
actually, Mr. Long made the motion.
made the motion, Mr.
and-
Huntsman made the second.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So it's carried. Item 5H6, Fund 128, Drug Use Abatement Fund, $500,000.
This budget amendment just allocates the $500,000 that commission already approved for the Northeast Regional Recovery Center. It just puts the money into the line so that we have now received the invoice and we're going to be paying them.
Have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Mr. Huntsman made
Mr.
it.
Hudson makes a motion. We have a second? Second. Mr. Doty makes a second. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, let's vote it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's carried. Mr. Cutshaw, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Hahn. We will now move to Personnel Committee. Chairman Doty, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any visitors wishing to address this committee at this time? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Item 3A, old business, there is none. Item 4A, the approval of education pay submissions. We have one associate, Mr. John Lowry, who's received his bachelor's. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Skywalker, motion. Mr. Holmes, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4B, our longevity. We have 3 associates that all have their 3 years of service. And will be receiving the longevity payment. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Ahern, do I have a second? Second. Mr. Horner. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Doty and Personnel. We will now move to Public Services Committee. Chairman Richardson, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. Call this committee to order. Any visitors wishing to address the committee?
These teachers.
Seeing none, we'll go on. Item 4A, new business, surplus item for register of deeds. Mr. Clausen, it appears that he has a single pass, 200 capacity, single door metal plaque cabinet to surplus. We have a motion on that.
I'll make the motion.
We have a second.
Okay.
Ms. Howell, second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4B, surplus item for Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Mullins, this is the drug car we just spoke about, or the...
Yes, it'll be the 2012 Tahoe.
Okay. So we have a item to surplus. Have a motion on that as well?
Motion to approve.
Second, Ms. Ahern. Any discussion? We'll vote the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign, the motion carries. Item 4C, Hamblen County Road Commission information for applicants requesting public road and right-of-way abandonment. May Britton.
This is a formal policy for how county government would handle requests to abandon roads like we did with Grigsby Road last month. And we really didn't have a formal written policy. Normally, items like that flow from the Highway Department to planning, then to the County Commission for final approval. So this puts it in writing. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention. If you'll look at page 2, item 3, then it talks about, and we did this with the Grigsby Road closure, is required that the applicant pay all the expenses. If the abandonment is approved, that the applicant pay all the expenses. And then item 4 is something that didn't apply to Grigsby Road because we didn't have this in place. And this is something that the Road Commission wanted included in this policy, is that the applicant would pay, would reimburse the county for 5 years' worth of gas tax that would be collected on the road. The gas tax is calculated based on the number of miles of roads in the county. And so in item number 4, it says, upon final approval by the vote of the commission, the applicant will also be required to pay an amount equal to 5 years' worth of gas tax revenue attributed to the roadway being abandoned. So that was something that the Road Commission wanted to add. And the rest of it just discusses the process. It's been approved by and recommended by the Road Commission. And planning do it too, Rodney? Did you guys address this?
Not the
Not this.
tax.
Okay, so do we have a motion for this? To accept this?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is
the
county attorney, has he looked at this?
I have, I've worked on it quite a bit, to make sure all is going on.
Thank you.
But it's up to you guys.
Any other discussion? If not, let's vote the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Item 4D, Resolution 23 to amend zoning map of Hamblen County, Tennessee by rezoning District 4, Tax Map 59, Parcel 009.01, 5155 Inca Highway, Morristown, from A1 to I2. Lori.
Yes, sir, and good evening to the commission. I'd like to preface the next 5 rezoning requests will all be from the same property owner, and that is Lakeway Land Co. LLC. And all 5 are dealing with either extending the landfill property. Well, they're all pretty much doing that. So anyway, with that, this first rezoning request is for a 98-acre piece of property, which is east of Inca Highway, south of Chucky River Road, and north of Grigsby Road, which I believe the commission recently closed. I think the landfill is already using this property. The request is to change the designation of the property from A1 to I2. And as the request appears to meet the recently amended I2 guidelines, and the request brings the zoning designation into conformity, staff and I believe the Planning Commission would recommend the approval of the request.
Okay, do we have that in the form of a motion? Ms. Ahern made the motion. Anybody second that?
Second.
Commissioner Walker? Any discussion? Not, let's vote the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Like sign, motion carries. Item E, another resolution to amend the zoning map on District 4, Tax Map 059, Parcel 004, 2451 Grigsby Road. Lori?
Yes, do we have the next slide? Thank you, ma'am. And again, this is from Lakeway Land Co. LLC. They are asking to rezone their property from the current zoning designation of C1, which is commercial, to I2, which is your environmental industrial district. It's a 120-acre tract that is located along either side of the recently closed Grigsby Road. And again, as it would be in conformance with your I2 guidelines, the Planning Commission and staff would recommend approval of the request. And I might state here that Mayor Britton, feel free to say anything you might need, and I believe Mr. Scott Reams is here is for the applicant, so join in, feel free.
Okay, we have a motion to accept this.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Horrible. Any discussion?
So this is just rezoning, but is this going into landfill?
I believe it will be used for the landfill, yes, ma'am.
So now we're up to 218 acres new for landfill.
Roughly, yes, ma'am.
Already using
There-
the
it's-
need of it.
What?
They're
already
using,
using
they're using it,
first
it's just adjusting.
Just as zoning.
Yeah.
Mr. Remington, Hamlet.
There is an existing landfill.
Already there.
Right up here, that is being used as a landfill now. It is about full. It has been used as a landfill since the early 2000s. So really what you were doing there is just changing your zoning to meet what's actually being done. This is the site of the expansion. And there's an application pending before the Solid Waste Board to be considered on Friday. And Lakeway, or GFL, is the parent company, wants to expand this landfill into this area. So this area right here is the new landfill area. There is probably, can we go to the next slide? There's a small area there that has a house on it, a log cabin. That's the reason it's a separate parcel. If we go to the next one, give you some idea. Right here is a landfill that's over, this is on Sublet Road. That's one, and I think the next slide may show another request. These are existing landfills. If GFL is able to expand the landfill over adjacent to the Inca site, this property here becomes, in effect, surplus property for them. There's a landfill there now, and we're in the process of negotiating with the Solid Waste Board for them to buy this so that they can expand their landfill here, because I think they're within a few months of being full. And one of the good things about that is the county owns this property up here, so it ties your existing landfill here and gives you additional land to expand your landfill and take care of it for probably 35 to 50 years. So that's just the background behind all this. Really, most of these rezoning requests involve existing landfills. They've been used as landfills for a number of years, and for some reason the rezoning or the zoning hasn't matched what's been done. Really only one parcel. If you'll back up to where we were on the second request, go forward one. This right in here and the parcel right in there are the only ones not being used as landfills right now. But that's where we're wanting to expand this landfill. And there's a landfill there. That's the old BASF landfill. And just north of that is the landfill that Lindsay Fiber started. So it's really this whole area right there has been used as a landfill since my childhood days, which is a long, long time.
I'd like for you to show me with your red thing, where is the land we're saving because we are such good recyclers? I don't see it, and it is astounding to me the amount of, we have the the program in the state, and yet we're running out of landfill.
I don't know.
Yeah, me either.
If you'll go forward, I'll show you where the, how did those color slides get in, you know? Go forward one more. All right, this right here is a landfill that is operated by GFL. It is what they call a Class 2. It has construction waste in it. This land up here is where the county is looking to, the Solid Waste Board, to buy this property to expand the landfill, which is here. I don't know about the operations of the county, the Solid Waste board landfill, what all they have and where. But this is a class 3, I believe, landfill, which is the environmentally restrictive, this one is a class 2. The county is wanting, or the solid waste board is wanting to buy this parcel here. There is a landfill there, it's permitted. It's just in mothballs right now by GFL. They take one load a month just so they can keep the permit open. Like I say, if they are able to expand their existing landfill over adjacent acre, this will affect the Southwest County. They don't need it and don't need to operate it. It benefits the county by being able to expand their current operations there and also tie into other land that they own.
Okay.
All of them meet the standards, EDAC, which are now the standards for the zoning ordinance. And the expansion has to go through unbelievable regulatory approval. In fact, it's anticipated that it will take 3 to 4 years to get through that approval of all the requirements involved. Army Corps of Engineer approval because of wetlands. Highly regulated.
Is all these landfills for just Hamblen County, or are we bringing in trash from other counties into Hamblen County with these landfills?
For the county,
We don't, at our landfill, we don't.
Right.
But now GFL has contracts.
Right, so like the Inca landfill expanding, it's not because of Hamblen County's trash, it's where we're bringing in trash from another county.
well, a large part of what is on that landfill is from Hamblen County.
Right.
But some of it is from out of county on. And I guess that's
Okay. Okay.
Like GFL's commercial account.
Right.
But it was interesting to me, I had Mr. Poole was very kind and called me, and I had a tour of the Hamblen County garage. Is he here still? Okay.
No, he's not.
And he was telling me that some people buy another garbage can, and I said, oh, you mean a recycle can? He said, no. Now, I know you pay for I know that it's paid, but good heavens, you know, we're garbage happy here. And to have a, you know, when I think of Sammy Burrell and Liz Steislinger and the program they've started with, you know, recycling, and my goodness, we've got to get back to that. But, okay.
Recycling has become even more difficult now.
Yes, sir.
They will take
Yes. But we need to know as taxpayers and as citizens, you know, if I'm putting this in and they say, nope, if it has black on it, I don't want it. I need to know that, you know, and so maybe some re-education. That doesn't solve your problem, but anyway, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, let's vote on item F. We have a motion? Do we have a motion on item F? Ms. Ahern, have a second?
Second.
Mr. Walker, any other discussion? If not, let's vote the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. None. The motion carries. Item G, 4G, resolution to amend zoning map of Hamblen County by rezoning District 5, tax map 057, parcel 058, 4601 Sublet Road, from A1 to I2.
I'll make that motion.
Motion. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 4H, resolution to amend zoning map, District 5, tax map 057, parcel 001.01 on Guy Collins Road from A1 to I2. Any,
Make a motion.
make a motion?
Second.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Harvey, any discussion?
So it's already a landfill? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussions? Okay, let's vote the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. The motion carries. Item 4I, resolution to amend the zoning map of Hamblen County by rezoning District 3, tax map 18P, Group B, parcels 014.00 and 015.00 on 1579 Green Road, Morristown, from R1 to A1.
Yes, sir. This request comes from property owners Richard and Brenda Ford for their properties located at 1579 Green Road. They're asking to rezone these properties from R1, which is single-family residential, to A1, which is agricultural. Their house burned down a few months ago. They've been living in a hotel due to the kindness of, I think, the Red Cross, and they're asking for the A1 zoning so that they can move a single-wide mobile home in. And Hamblen County zoning, single-wides are allowed in A1 zones. And while there is not immediately adjacent to this property A1 zoning or single-wide mobile homes, there are within roughly 100 feet. So we would not think of this as spot zoning in any way. There is A1 zoning in close proximity, and there are single-wide mobile homes as a land use within close proximity. So we would ask that the request be approved.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Walker, have a second? Mr. Huntsman? Any discussion?
Commissioners, I'd ask, this is in my area. I'm familiar with the area. It's probably within half a mile from my home. And I agree that there's several single-wide trailers on Green Road within that proximity. Behind this house, I would say, is the old Martin place there, is not that agricultural? Is that an A1 zone behind them?
I couldn't tell you right off.
Behind them. It is the Martin
Yeah, the Martin residence is right behind it, and I was thinking that that was an A1 zone because, you know, he's run cattle on that for years back in there. But, I mean, the area there, I don't think putting a single wide in there would cause any problems with anybody in the residence in that area. I mean, I've had one person call and just ask about it, and they were more in the tune of were they putting in a older model used home or a new model. That was their only concern there. But I don't see any problem with
Any other
try to
discussion? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Were you finished?
I just asked that we go ahead and approve this for this.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Not hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Richardson. We will now move to Rules Review Committee. Chairman Hahn, you are recognized.
Call the Rules Review Committee to order. Anyone wishing to speak may do so at this time. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Dan Pellegrin, 7290 Sweetbriar Drive. Thank you. I know last month we had talked about the sign-in sheet, and you had concerns about that you didn't want to, people not to be able to talk if they didn't sign the sheet. I agree with that. The other one is if we're going to limit people or time, or in this case, visitors wishing to address the committee about agenda items. As far as 3:30 today, I didn't see the agenda in the computer. The only place I know what to look for is in the government, Hamblen County government webpage, and I didn't see it then. So I just think if we put a sign-in sheet, then we need to put the minutes out, I would think, the day before, so people got time to be able to review what's going to be said, so they want to put a sign for the sign-in sheet. That's all I got to say. I just think they should be tied together, that we have time to actually see what's on the agenda if we want to talk. Thank you.
Just a note, Chairman Hahn, the minutes should have been online on Friday. They should have been, and I expect that they were.
Well, I didn't see it on the weekend.
I'm
I saw it
sorry.
today.
Yes, and we'll do our best to educate that.
They were on there, but we'll try to coordinate that. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
It's public comments.
If I can look at meeting packets, can Dan?
Oh,
look at meeting-
absolutely,
Well, they were there Friday.
absolutely.
No, maybe I looked at them Saturday. Oh, yeah, I was there.
Well, there was one place to look, government,
Yeah.
Goes to commission meeting, they got a thing on there, meeting packets.
Excuse me, sir, there could be terminology, and I'm sorry, Chairman Hahn, it could be terminology. This was our February committee meetings, not commission. So yes, sir, it would not be under commission meeting, it would have been under committee meetings. It's just terminology, and we can talk about
But
it.
I don't know where to look in, if I'm looking wrong. So all I know is a page that's got committee, and the other side, it had, additions to the meeting, or packet, I mean. I saw that on there, but I really didn't see, so. If it's not there, then I'll apologize, but something should be on there a little easier for me to find, I guess, for this meeting.
Yes, sir.
Sir, Ms. Bowman said if you'll come by the office, she'll be glad to give you a tutorial.
Okay.
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe
Ms. Noy,
Stevens Road.
before you start, we need to talk. When you address this commission, please do not use profanity. And,
Excuse me,
yes, ma'am.
when have I ever used profanity?
Well, as you've said, films don't lie.
When have I ever used profanity?
Yes, ma'am, I'm asking you, please do not use profanity.
What are you calling, if you're going to make remarks like that, that's an accusation. I want to know what profanity I have ever used. What are you calling profanity?
Yes, ma'am. I've just made a statement, and I'd ask that you just abide
And
by
I
our
just
rules.
asked for a clarification.
No, ma'am. It's on your film that we took, that we reviewed, and I was called upon it several times this week.
Who are we and what
It's none of your
profanity
business as
did
far
I
as that.
use?
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, please do not use profanity in our
Talk
meetings.
as I always do, which is never with profanity.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And you will tell me what profanity. That is such a crude, rude accusation.
Yes, ma'am. And,
Yes, it sure is.
Please start the time.
And you know what? I'd gotten up here to hopefully clean slate, have you all listen with an open mind. I see that's not going to happen, but I'm
Well,
going
that's
to go
not
on
true.
anyway. I'm
That's not
going
true.
to go on anyway. You have, of course, on your rules, you're talking about public comment guidelines. And you attached this page, and it has in bold the changes that you recently made about public comments, a 2A and a 2B, general comments, and then agenda comments. I think if you will open your minds and consider this, I would like you to consider changing A and B. Not changing the 3 minutes, but changing 3A or 2A and 2B. And today's, or your agenda for your next meeting on the 23rd is what I'm going to refer to as a good example of why it should be changed. I gave Ms. Green tonight an article from the Knoxville Focus. They cover the commission in Knoxville. I hope she'll pass it out. If you want to pass it out now while I talk, that'll be fine. But in Knoxville, they have a rules committee, and they have a sign-in sheet.
And their proposal is to have you, when you sign in and you're going to speak on an agenda item, you can choose to speak at the beginning of the meeting, or you can choose to speak before the agenda item is actually voted on. I don't think anybody, you can ignore the logic of it, but it makes perfect sense. And the reason it makes perfect sense to allow people to talk before an actual agenda item is voted on is shown by your proposed calendar or agenda for your next meeting. If I came up here and I wanted to speak on agenda item 11I6, that $500,000 for the drug fund or drug use abatement fund, I would have to speak right at the beginning of the meeting for 3 minutes. There would then be 25 or more votes before the issue that I spoke on ever came up. That's why it would be the same amount of time, still 3 minutes for people, but it would mean so much more if they were speaking to you before the item is voted on, not an hour or who knows how much longer before. Now, if anybody can tell me that doesn't make perfect sense, I'd like to hear why. And I think that's why Knoxville is looking at that. They have long meetings, and whether you have a long or a short meeting, let the people have their 3 minutes before you vote on an item. And I didn't count the public hearings as an item either. I counted just as the votes. People would be standing here, they would comment, and then an hour or however much passes by, and then the vote comes up. It's such a disconnect between what that person is concerned about, and they're concerned enough to come to your meeting, and they should be allowed to choose, if they want to speak before the item comes up. Knoxville's doing that. It makes perfect sense. And it doesn't change anything as far as 3 minutes. It just puts it where it ought to be. And of course, your idea in letting people talk about general comments at the beginning was to let them talk and then leave. Well, remember, there are people who are here to see the business part of the item too, or the agenda. I further ask that you consider leaving cameras alone and not proceeding with this adoption to stick them in the back of the room. Thank you.
Thank you for your I'm sorry, Bobby.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Please give your name and your address.
Rob Berg, 720 White Oak Circle. So talking about the opportunity to change some of the language in here. So first, I respect the idea to bring or to have established some decorum in this room, as we oftentimes see that maybe it does go to the wayside, and we do need to have that respect in this room. So I appreciate the effort there. I would like to see some clarity on this, however, because, for example, in number 2, in that section, sorry I didn't bring that paper up there, but it says that citizens and visitors are expected to act respectfully, and then goes on to say citizens can be removed for becoming boisterous. And I think this term is, and I understand the idea that you have here, however, this term is actually a little difficult with our English language, because it can mean noisy, it can mean energetic, it can mean joyous, jolly, rowdy. Like, there's an assortment of terms of just that the word boisterous can mean. So understanding, yes, I understand what you're trying to get to, but I also think there is so much gray area in what that term represents and can represent, that at any rate, you could essentially remove anybody for anything if that term is used. Because some people may say I'm energetic because, well, I am. And I have a lot of energy, and I come with that energy. And you may say, right now, you're being boisterous. I need you to leave. Well, in reality, you're not wrong because I am being energetic. So I think looking at that term and finding a term that more suits the idea that you guys are having would be a good fit. Also further down, it states that if the chairman fails to act in regard to having that individual removed from the meeting, any member of the commission may move or make a motion for that presiding officer to act. We've all seen, and you guys are here every single time. I'm not here as much as schedule allows, but you guys have seen how there are times where this body is split. And there are opportunities that even the room behind me is split, that some people sit on one side of the altar and some on the other. Well, if somebody gets up here on a specific side and has something to say and someone on the other side doesn't necessarily like it, they can make a motion, essentially, right, to have that presiding officer have that person removed. I just think it leaves a lot of gray area, and in fact, that language to me splits this body more so than what it needs to be, and not just this body in front of me, but the body behind me. And instead of having opportunities to have language in this that would cause any type of divisive type of terminology, I think we need to find a common ground that we can come together because we're all here for the same purpose. We might have different ways to skin that cat, but we all want to be here for the same purpose of making changes and having this county better for us and our families. And the third opportunity I see further down is talking about setting limits on times that citizens are allowed to speak if there are, and I'll put in quotes here, a large number of people who wish to speak. Well, what does a large number of people mean? That's open to interpretation, which again is a really gray area, and it's really difficult. I don't know, maybe, Mr. Chairman, you have a busy evening ahead, and you may say, well, this constitutes a large number of people. Let's go. You get 1 minute now, and I just don't think that's fair. I don't think at all that's what you're intending, but I do think with the rules written or proposed in the way that they are, it could allow that opportunity for someone else to misalign or abuse that terminology. So again, I appreciate the effort that the commission has worked on this. There are just a few things that I think we need to tighten up to make sure that they're not abused. Maybe not by the people sitting here, but we are hoping to create, structure that outlives us all, correct? So who knows who's going to be in this seat, your seat, within the next term or in the next 50 years. So that's my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak? Close the public comments. Move down the agenda to item, item 4A, Hamblen County Commission Public Comment Guidelines for Commission Meetings. Had a chance to look at the packet. You'll notice in there that we've got 5 essential guidelines. The gentleman spoke about some of those, and I'm going to go briefly through those, so you need to read them because I may stumble over this a little bit, trying to move along pretty quick. Number 1 is everyone attending the meeting will refrain from private conversations. They can be disruptive and kind of heckling if they get too loud or out of line. Citizens and visitors attending the county commission meetings are expected to act respectfully. We've had some pretty contentious meetings the last few months, and we need to curb that. We need to act civilized and stay within ourselves.
Chairman.
Yes.
May I add, just that these guidelines have been what we've used.
Right.
But as we stated when we opened up our rules committee, that everything we've done, we've always reverted to the past. But as we act on these, they come back to the forefront.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
We will enact as we accept this. Beforehand, we have not, and from this point forward, is if it comes out of committee as such and goes to the commission.
Absolutely.
And we'll do so. And in regard to the gentleman's word of boisterous, disruptive is a word that we could use. Disruptive instead of boisterous. I don't have a problem with the thought, and it's just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Third item, the commission chairman shall not allow disruptive comments and remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, screams, any kind of overt, I'm throwing the word overt, demonstrations from anyone. We'll keep ourselves in check. We ask that the citizens do also, with the idea that the guilty parties can be removed from the meeting. There'll be no, and this, I know this is a bone of contention, but it's on here, no, and we will vote on this. No placards, banners, or signs will be permitted in the county commission meeting room or any other room in which the county commission is meeting. Exhibits, displays, and visual aids used in connection with presentations, however, are permitted. And I know Mr. Reams, I think he had a couple of things he could have used there, maps and whatnot. And so that's okay. We can go with that. Number 5 is another item of contention. I think Ms. Noyes already brought that up. Cameras, video equipment, and other recording devices shall be restricted to a designated area of the meeting room and shall not be allowed to interfere with the conduct of the meeting or hamper the ability of the audience to observe and participate in the meeting. One of the things that came up was why we moved closer was because you could not hear the speakers from the back of the room with your recording device. I know Mr. Cutshaw tested this out, and he's assured me and the rest of us that your devices will pick up the voices without any trouble, and you shouldn't have any trouble with being able to video back there. So those are 5 things that we've got on the board here tonight in our first section. So I'll ask for a motion to approve these and move forward.
Are we going to have discussion before you vote on them?
Yes.
No, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
apologize.
Yes, ma'am.
The motion, I'll make a motion that we approve those with the change of boisterous to disruptive in the wording that is in item 2, second line.
Okay. Changing item 2, the second line from boisterous to disruptive. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Oh, wait a minute, I want to make an amendment.
Hold on, Ms.
Okay.
Commissioner
Yes,
Howell,
sir.
we need to get it on the floor first.
Yes, sir.
We've got a motion, I'm sorry, Chairman.
Yes, we got a motion. We need a second.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Now, we can discuss this. Ms. Howell, did you have something?
Well, a phone is not very disruptive, a phone camera. So, I understand, when the Channel 10 comes in, that would be disruptive. But a little phone a phone is not, so that's.
Yeah, but here's the thing that you get into. If somebody brings a full-fledged video camera in, like Channel 10, then we're telling them they have to stand back there and another citizen can sit up here because their equipment happens to be a little smaller. So I think we need that blanket, consistent rule. And this has been a rule for a long time, and it's just not been obeyed nor enforced. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have a comment?
Yes.
Question?
What are you calling, in number 4, what are you calling, I can't tell if it says placard or place cards. What are you
Placard.
calling a placard? Are you calling this a placard? Is that what you're calling?
Well, is that attached to your shirt with,
It certainly is.
then that would be a placard, yes.
So if you're telling me something this small that interferes with no one.
I would
It
refer.
says, wait a minute, please. Mine says Happy Valentine's Day. That is not any type of disruptive message. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So tell me what's wrong with this.
What is wrong with it is pretty much the same as we were talking about the size of the camera. You come in, you're saying, this is fine. I don't, personally, it's cute, no problem, okay? But where do we draw the line? We don't, one 5 inches bigger that says something derogatory? I mean, where do you draw the line on that?
Well, we should be able to have descriptive banners, just like what Ms. Hale said about the cameras. There is a way to describe something this size, and something this size, and something There was a gentleman had a big old sign behind Mr. Burke earlier.
That was for exhibit.
That was
Yes.
an exhibit,
That
yes.
was for
And
exhibit.
if I understood correctly, in Mr. Curtis's remarks to the former commissioners, and I was not, thank God I was not part of you at that time, he said that a placard was something that you blocked somebody's view. Am I incorrect, Mr.
I do
Cutshire?
not recall, but my suggestion is we can, as it's always been said about rules, we can strike that until we get a ruling from before. Before, it's like some subject that you always bring up, that citizen, or our commission voted to sue a citizen of this county. And the only reason was so we could get a ruling on what a placard is. Now, isn't that silly? We have to decide what a placard is, but yet we do. If we got the verbiage here, we've got to figure out what is a placard. And I don't know. I mean, what you're doing, it doesn't.
Could we possibly revert back to what Mr. Curtis had sent us from TCI before?
TCI, that's Tennessee Corrections Institute. What are we talking
I
about?
apologize. Mr.
CTAS.
Curtis, thank you. I appreciate it, sir.
What is it?
Bobby had it.
Let me ask you a question, and I would ask Mr. Curtis the same question. Give me dimensions. This big, if you took that off and held it up, you could block someone's
I
view
couldn't
with
block,
that.
I can't peel it off, okay?
Well, I'm not
And
saying
I have
that,
no
but you take
intention
a
of
placard
stripping.
that size, you take a placard that size and hold it up, you can block someone's view.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I think you're wrong, but just a minute. I challenge you on that one, so bear with me.
There's no challenge. You can block someone's view with a playing card.
Mr. Horn, I'm 5'1" and a half, and nobody can block my view with a blanket.
But we have 6'4" people come in here.
Yeah, but I'm
These rules have to
5'5".
apply to everybody, not to 5'5". They have to apply to everybody. We can't start singling out and saying your sign is permissible, your sign is not permissible.
But that is exactly what you have done in the past.
What if we use a
No, we said
dictionary?
signs weren't permissible.
What if we use a dictionary? Related words.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Placard's a placard, no matter what it says.
Yeah.
Placard's a placard.
Placards just to draw attention to yourself.
That's what the
Oh,
dictionary
it's
said.
disruptive.
It's related words to bark, call off, cry, bill, billboard, bulletin.
Draw attention to yourself on this.
Excuse me, Joe.
I said it, what you do when you put a sign on there? I do the same thing in my cars like that. Like I'm a Trump person, I put a sign on the car. What I do that for? Because I want to draw attention to me.
Right.
And if you wear a placard or something like that, you're wanting to draw attention to me. And I think a person, there's some places it's good, there's some places it's not. And in our county commission, which is above head, we've elected people to thing, and I think when you look at old people like that, we don't need to carry something that's going to draw attention to me.
Yes.
We take care of our people. That's me.
Very good, yes. And it can become disruptive. We obviously know that from past history with the placards and signs that were in here a few months back, drew a lot of disruption and contention and wound up in court. And we don't want to play judge and jury on those things. I don't want to have to sit here and describe, you can have a 12-inch sign, 12 by 12, but you can't have a 14, yeah, whatever, 14 by 14, 13 by 13, you know. You say you can't block somebody's view with that? Yes, you can. Maybe you at 5'5", you'll be short enough, but we've got people in here that are 6 feet, 6'2". They stand up, or they hold a placard up here, they're gonna block the person behind them's view. And that's not fair to that person.
But we're not talking about holding something up. We're talking about something attached to a piece of paper.
No, we're not. We're talking about placards and signs.
That is not the definition that was given to us by Mr.
Right
Curtis.
here, we're talking about no placards or signs or banners, okay? It doesn't say anywhere where it's attached to your forehead, your shirt, or your foot.
I
There's no
understand what
description
you're
there.
saying. I disagree with you, but I understand what you're saying. But on the second point you brought up, where the chins have got, if it's a large number of folks, I don't know about any of you, but when I asked for people's votes, I did not tell them that I would stand to keep them from being able to come and speak if there was a whole lot of them and something was coming up. We should be able, as commissioners, to give them time to speak. And if we don't have that much time, we should not have run for the office.
Ms. Green, we haven't gotten to that part yet, so
Okay.
let's
I'll
clarify.
hold it till we get there, yes,
We
sir.
will, yes, and then
Thank you.
we'll cover that. Any other questions or comments on these 5 items? Question. Where? Oh, Mr. Redmond.
Chairman or commissioner want someone removed, who is going to do it?
These gentlemen up here.
Has been discussed with them?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are they in favor of it?
They are.
Yes, sir.
Well,
I think they will.
We had some problems here,
Yes.
and it got pretty serious. I told the Bill Britton there, it's gonna get dangerous, someone's gonna get hurt. We gotta have support if we're gonna do this.
We agree 100%, and that's been clarified, yes. Mr. Doty?
If I can, Mr. Reed, just to clarify, the discussions have been made with the sheriff's department, with the sheriff, and they had a meeting with the attorney general and quite a few others, and basically, if we ask them to, but it does not fall within the guidelines of the law, then they will inform us of that, so we will be within our rights if they act on behalf of our request.
Ms. Howell?
Yes, sir. I feel like if, when you go to the airport, you have to take off your shoes. And if I have to take off my shoes, then that means I get back to Bill at the end of my flight, I'm a happy camper. And I feel like, I can't wear my barn boots and my barn jeans to church. And if the rules are that, okay, we can get, and I agree with you on the, I understand what a placard is, and you can't go to school and have a T-shirt on that says "Down with the government" or something, or yeah. So if we're talking about these 5 and we've thrown that out, and I'm okay.
Any other discussion or questions?
7 years old, doing it.
Well, I had to take my leg off one time, so.
We need to clarify our vote.
I got to go through a special line, but I had to take my leg off.
Which
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
we've
so.
already been through. What did we vote on? Yes, okay, and yes. Thomas made the motion that we accept these rules and with, go ahead, Chairman Hom, but except with the word boisterous being replaced by disruptive. That's the only changes we have at this point. Is there another change?
Any other questions? Okay, let's vote this. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is moved. We move down to item 4B, discussion of a sign-in sheet for public comment, section A and B. We had some discussion last month. Some people felt uncomfortable giving their address out publicly, fearing maybe some retaliation is possible, or just didn't feel comfortable with it. I get that. I think if anybody wants to attack you, they can find out where you live without a great deal of difficulty, but if you don't want to publish it over the internet or on videotape or whatever, I'll respect that, and we'll go to a sign-in sheet. And we've talked about this some, and the logistics of a sign-in sheet would be the sign-in sheet in the back of the room. You would come in and sign in, name and address. And it would not be public knowledge, whatever. At some point, just before kickoff, we move that sign-in sheet up to the podium. We can leave another sign-in sheet back there. Anybody coming in late can continue to sign in.
Debatable. Debatable.
Debatable.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And that is debatable. That's one thing we're throwing out there. Then, when we get to the public comment section, they will be called up as they're on the list by name. They come up, they don't have to say anything, they just go into their spiel on what they want to say at that meeting. So that's where we're at with the sign-in sheet. Do I have a motion to accept?
Now, that's just for the sign-in sheet.
Sign-in sheet.
That's correct.
Now, also, you, I think,
Let's get a motion in a second, then
Motion
we
in here.
discuss.
Motion?
yeah,
Ms. Howe makes the motion. Do we have a?
Ms. Howe's
Oh,
not
she's
on the
not?
rules.
No,
Oh,
that's
good
right.
golly.
There's four of us here tonight. I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Cutshaw makes the motion. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Doty seconds it.
Now begins the discussion.
Any discussion now about,
I wish to amend that slightly to add a additional opportunity for the public to speak, but if they use it and not sign the sheet, for example, someone comes in at a later time than is available to sign, they don't see the sign-in sheet, they sit down, comes time to speak, they get up. If they get up, they must verbally give their name and address at the podium before they speak and express their agenda, or they can say, I want to, sign the paper, and then it come up. But I think just because they've not signed a paper prior to them getting up, because the meeting starts at 5. There's a lot of people in this community work 9 to 5. They get here 15 after, quick as they can get here. A lot of the meetings already started. We're probably already into the public comment section, and that will still give them an opportunity to sign up or to come up and just verbally give their name and address.
Mr. Doty suggests if you don't make the sign-in sheet and you still want to make a public comment, you can come to the podium. Excuse me. And you would give your full name and your address. That would be a requirement.
He's made an amendment. I'll make a second to that so we can discuss that amendment.
Anyway,
I'm sorry, I would also say you need to have a column there for them to check whether it's an agenda item or a non-agenda item.
True. True. So those
Two
are.
sections.
Yeah. So on discussion on the amendment here, if I understood right, we'll have a sign-in sheet, or it's suggested we'll have a sign-in sheet for anyone and everyone coming in. But if they happen to come in late and miss the sign-in sheet, they still have the opportunity to speak to our commission, but at that point, they will have to state their name and openly.
Or if we're going to give the option of signing, we can have just a sign-in slip that can be delivered, and I would be willing to take the duty of bringing that to the chair if someone's afraid to give their name and address. That would be their only options.
That's
Or they can be reverted back to the next meeting when they get an opportunity to sign in. They can verbally do it. I like the idea of come back to the next meeting when they can sign in.
What if we just put the sign-in sheet on the podium? If you come up and you don't feel comfortable with your name being public, you just sign it there. It'd be not really any different than what we're doing now, except you just won't say your name. It takes away the confusion of, well, I signed it back there, but so you just have and it would be less obvious if you didn't want your name out. Only the people on the podium would have access to it.
accountability would be the only thing that I would be concerned with there as far as being a resident of Hamblen County. Maybe we already know them, maybe so, but we would have to check that. That was the purpose of signing in, to register who they are and where, you know, what they're about.
And,
So-
you know, who would be going up and making sure they actually sign in? Or would it be
Yeah.
one of our residents who merely comes up and gives a shortened version of his first name and starts speaking?
As always, guys, we said this Rules Committee is trying to weed through this and come up with a suggestion. We can always work to change this if it's not working. And, you know, we're not trying to keep anybody from. However, you know, I support your original motion of a sign-in sheet and then them stating their name if they're late. that's what I support.
I have one other question.
Yes, sir.
What about calling to the mayor's office or on internet questions? How are they recognized or dealt with?
Excuse me, if they.
Can Ms. Al speak? She can't vote, but she can speak, right?
Yes.
With questions? All right.
Well, I thought you had brought up an excellent thing that with the technology today, you know, if you know you get off work and you don't want to get a speeding ticket and you get here at 5:10 and the paper's already up, but if you signed in on the internet or you signed in with the mayor's office, that ought to count. Huh.
Yeah, we could do something like that, but it'd have to have a time limit on it. But certainly we could look into that. Website sign in, or we'd have to get with our website guy to do such things, IT guy. I mean, it's a possibility.
Seems like we're getting this complicated.
Yeah, I agree.
And all we want to do is
I agree.
make sure the two things. One is we have some record of who spoke, and then because it's recorded in the minutes. And then the other thing is, are you a county, citizen? So it seems like we're getting kind of confusing or complicated.
Well, it is getting complicated, and oversight can get that way.
Yeah, sure.
As we get into this. Right now, we have on the floor to have the sign-in sheet, and if you don't make it to the cutoff, you are required to give your address.
Okay.
Anybody unclear on that? I know we had some other suggestions. Are we going to make those into an amendment, or are we satisfied with Mr. Doty's?
That'll work for now.
Okay.
Where's the start?
We've got a motion and a second on that.
Yes. All right, let's vote it. Everybody in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved. Item 4C, discussion for public comment rules for the committee meetings. 4C1 is 3 minutes per speaker, and 4C2 is 15-minute time limit per committee for public comments. And these are committee meetings. And as you know, with committee meetings, differing from the commission meetings like tonight, as committee meetings, we speak before each committee. So you'll have 3 minutes as a citizen to address your concerns. So do I have a motion on that?
Yes, I'll make the motion that we adopt this.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Now let's discuss this.
The other discussion, does this include the segment that says if a large number of persons desire to speak?
It does.
It does. Can we reword that to say if,
Something more specific.
yes, something more specific, to say if more citizens than the 3-minute, 15-minute time limit?
Commissioners, I think common sense can be used here, and when we get to this type of meeting, that, as always, it's been stated, if it's needed by majority, we move forward and allow time. It's not to a genuine concern and so forth, but when there's a large number, and it's only happened a few times, it's practically irrelevant. But when there is, it's a lot of redundant comments that's unnecessary. We get it. After the first 10, you understand. You understand what's going on. So that was the idea of a time limit, but obviously, if there is a genuine concern, at least that's my heart, we have the opportunity to expand that by majority rule.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Yes, Chairman Hunt.
Ms. Green?
You have 15-minute limit. We very seldom have over 4 people max. In the 9 years I've attended these meetings, I've seen it limited number of times that you have more than that. Can we not extend that to at least 30 minutes or more. I mean, as a citizen of Hamblen County before I was blessed enough to be elected, I had things that I needed to bring up that I never got an answer to was the first thing. It was never acted on, it was never answered, which is something at some point, and that's another issue that needs to be addressed. But we should at least show the citizens the courtesy of listening to what they have to say. I did when I politicked, and I'm sure you did too, sir. So what's any different now?
Commissioner Hahn?
Yes, sir.
May I address?
Yes, sir.
In this, folks, and to Commissioner Green's point, we are here. But this is not the only avenue to address our body. You have many avenues to address our body. If there is a genuine concern and a person has reached out to a number of our commissioners and they come before us, we have the opportunity to extend if necessary. I think common sense rules in that, and that's how I feel. If there is a genuine concern, they're going to be contacting Ms. Green. They're going to be contacting Mr. Walker. You see what I'm saying? And it's not just by, you know, it could be a voice call, it could be a text, it could be email, it could be in person. This is not the only opportunity to seek and get information. There's a lot of information out there that you can seek. Thank you.
Commissioner Hahn, may I answer that, please, sir?
Sorry, say again.
May I answer what he said?
Yes, go ahead.
There are other alternatives, but as you have seen in the past, and as I have seen in the past, my former commissioner didn't answer emails. I don't care what came up, I couldn't get an answer. And when I came in here and brought my views to that podium, I still didn't get an answer, which is something I've heard more than one of you say you were going to push to change, and I thank God for that. But we owe them the courtesy of listening. And to be honest with you, if you ain't got time to listen to them, you shouldn't have run for the office.
Anyone else?
Just one thing. Yes, Mr. Holmes. There's a small typo that it's on this second line. County Commission might impose, should be may impose, I think.
Yes.
We can change that. Before we vote on it.
That's on the guidelines. Yeah, I see that. Mine, it should be may impose.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're ready to vote. No one has anything else to add? All in favor?
Are we voting on C1 and C2?
Yes.
As a group? Okay.
What? Yeah, we did one.
Okay.
We just have to do the 15 minutes. Okay. This will, to clarify, just, you know, it's a 15-minute time limit per committee for public comments. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
For number one, okay.
So we'll,
I'll make a motion
Policy,
with the change of Mike and May, the wording.
that's probably, you gotta get that out of the sheet, and I'll second.
you can't second.
No, I can, I made the motion.
I'll second.
Well, that's
So
right.
clarify for
But I'm the one that made the
everybody,
motion,
clarify,
not being chairman.
clarify what just happened.
Okay, what just happened, we didn't get a first or a second on that, so Mr. Doty is given a first, made the motion, and did we get a second?
I did.
And Mr. Cutshaw gave a second. So any questions about that?
This is still C.
It's C2.
C2.
Vote on C1, this is C2.
We'll move down to item 4D. Now we're moving into commission meetings, away from committee meetings. So it's not the same thing, a little different here. Discussion on time limits for public comment, non-agenda and agenda items for commission meetings. Before we get into the A and B for that.
You want to address that, Mr. Chairman?
Well, we've got the opportunity, we have, we voted in 2A, general comments for our public comments, and then 2B, we have agenda items only. Do we want, we've got 3 minutes per speaker in each of those agenda items. Do you want to put a time limit on, I suggested 30 minutes to start with. You know, it'd be for each section, 2A and 2B. Or is that too much? You know, again, everything that we do, folks, is able to be changed, but number 2, we can, by majority vote, allow more speaking time.
That gives a open total of an hour.
Well, that's an hour for public comments. For agenda and non-agenda. That's 3 minutes per speaker, though. I mean, you know, and it'd be rare to come across. Excuse me?
I was listening, I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize. I asked him if that was to be an hour total, and it's 30 for non-agenda and 30 for agenda, which if used all the non-agenda, then used all the agenda would be a total of an hour, but it's 30 per each, is what?
3 minutes. Oh, yeah, 30 per each section, yes.
Yeah.
30 minutes per each section.
Total of an hour.
Total of 1 hour. And obviously, as stated, overstated, we have the opportunity to extend limits if we need.
Quick question, sir.
Yes.
What kind of vote does it take to extend the limits that you mentioned, sir?
That would be majority vote of the committee, or the commission at that point. At that point, this would be majority vote of the commission to extend time limit.
Thank you, Mr. Doty, for the clarification. I couldn't hear it, thank you.
I'm sorry,
No,
my
you're fine.
microphone
I
hasn't
appreciate
worked,
it.
and I was turned this way, so
I
I apologize
appreciate
to the audience if they couldn't hear me as well.
Can I say something, or is it?
Yes, ma'am.
I asked Chairman Cutchaw, as we were leaving the meeting last time, how many times did somebody speak over, you know, when they were on, kind of like we are tonight? And he said, oh, he can remember one time, and it was about property management. And I thought, yeah, I would imagine that and budget would be big items. And I feel like that I usually dance with the one that brung me. And the voters, if they have something to say, and usually I have something to learn when they have something to say. So I would be against that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Question, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand, Chairman, and you've said this several times, but there again, I'm going to clarify in my mind, because I'm trying to pick up on everybody's thoughts. If we have speakers, 3 minutes for the agenda and non-agenda items, there's a total of 30 minutes per agenda and non-agenda, but you have said over and over that if we need to extend this because there's a large amount of people here, that we will vote on, can we extend this?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I understand that correctly?
That is correct. The idea would be, instead of 30 minutes, it might be 35 minutes. We've got 2 more speakers.
Correct.
I
agree.
That's irrelevant. You know, we're gonna do that.
And I thank you for that. That's what I've heard. I thought I heard that. I just wanted to clarify, and I appreciate that.
Right. Let's go ahead and get a motion on this. Anyone make a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty makes a motion. Need a second?
Second.
We got, Mike Richardson, second. Do we have any other questions or discussion to this? As it stands now, the motion is 3 minutes per speaker for 30 minutes total for non-agenda, and the same for agenda. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? So moved. Item 4E, monthly checks moved to consent calendar item.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Cutchaw.
Second.
Second from Mr. Doty.
I'll speak to the motion. Mayor has suggested to us that it's a pass-through, basically. The business is conducted, but as always, we can pull out on consent calendar if there's questions of anything. It can always be pulled out. It's just a matter of moving business forward.
So, sir, if I understand you correctly, if there's a question, they can still ask it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item last, 4F, Personnel Committee, Education, Longevity, and Military Pay. Motion?
We're moving that to the consent calendar.
That is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
It didn't say that, making sure.
Good. I need a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Doty, need a second?
Second.
Mr. Richardson?
I'll speak to that motion as well. Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
As chairman of the personnel committee, we do this as, bring it to the committee, basically as a gesture, because it's in the benefit package of our employees, and it's something that they are already guaranteed. That's why we, bring it to the committee, just to kind of inform, but if it's going to be in the consent calendar, that will just move things forward much quicker.
Yes, sir. When the longevity and the education policies were passed, they were passed under the provision that final action by committee, so that we could get the payments on to that final payroll for that month. And so, what I submitted to Chairman Goodshall was just a confirmation that we would continue that. But we have also
A housekeeping item, basically.
Very good. Any other discussion or comments? Questions? All right, let's vote it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Hahn. We'll now move to the Bulk Waste Committee. Chairman Horner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anyone wishing to address the Bulk Waste Study Committee may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll try to make this brief. It was only going to be a discussion anyway, discussion only. We have a bulk waste and trash problem in this county. And I don't know of any of you who don't have any in your district. I get calls constantly, not only in my district, but in some of your all's district. Maybe because they just know me. So, what we need to do is number one, define what bulk waste is. And moving forward, we're going to have some rules and regulations. I've asked Tommy to be here and Tina to be here, and they've sat here for 3 hours, so I'd like to give them the opportunity to, Tommy, if you want, just to address some of this trash.
Just showing some slides on some of the things that I've seen ever since I've been in the property maintenance and actually regulation enforcements in Hamblen County. I'm out doing field reviews and things like that all the time, and I see these things. Some of the things that she's showing up there, I mean, it's just, that's what we're seeing all the time. I mean, I run across that once a week, or, like that slide, can you back that one up, Trish, for me? We got paint, we got all kinds of things right here. Those things are very, very harmful to our stormwater. We're finding these things in our ditches and stuff. So, if any of you all want to see any of these slides or any pictures I've got a notebook that thick in the 3.5 years I've been doing this, and that's paper. It's that thick. It's just pictures that I've seen of both waste issues that we have in the county. Okay. But there's a lot of them, like they emptied a house out right there. That house on the right of the picture right there, they emptied out on the highway. That was 2 years ago. There's the second picture of that. There's another house that we emptied out. I know that it took various guys at least 2 runs to take that from there to the dump. It's not just throwing a couch and a refrigerator out, they're actually throwing everything. Dishes. And this stuff is actually washing into the lake. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's just, we have that problem. And I have a picture in here where it was raining and it was running all the way down into the lake. That's number 4 of that one there. That is on Sublet Road, 1,000 feet from the landfill, right there. That was a half of a mobile home tore down and pushed to the road. A half of a mobile home. The other house in the back of the picture. They just crushed it and pushed it to the road. That was a community drop of some kind. It's not in front of a house, but I think I had Tim,
in my
you were involved with that one with me, I believe, wasn't you, Betty? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
I actually dug through and found insurance papers to find out who dumped it, so.
And this isn't little piles, folks. I mean, and this is a fifth of what I've got pictures of. It's awful. I mean, it's a disgrace, really, when we have the privilege of having bulk waste pickup, and this is the way that our guys, meaning Barry Pool and our office, okay, that's bricks from one side to the other, where somebody had been doing a remodel on a house. Bricks, broken bricks. And there'll be another picture, 2 or 3 more pictures. They go on up the street as you go up. Our office has calls. This is a bulk waste issue, but we get more calls in our office. I'm assuming, well, no, I'm not assuming. I've been told that we get more calls in our office than they do at the highway department because of property maintenance issues or whatever. But it's a bulk waste issue, and it's well, and it's also a stormwater issue. Absolutely. Right. I didn't mean just only, it's both. But it starts with people pitching it to the street. And there's somebody's driveway.
Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate what you do, too. I know it's frustrating sometimes because, as Commissioner Howe has said, you know, we need some bite with our bark, and we've not had that in the past. And so it's going to take a lot of people working together. It's going to have to educate the public. I remember when the brush truck was just a brush truck. And then it's morphed into, you know, Joe put his out and Barry picked it up, so Jeff down the road put his out because he picked Joe's up. And I asked Barry to stay, but he left. Anyway, I'm not saying nothing behind his back. I have not said to his face, you know, and I said, as long as he keeps picking it up, they'll keep putting it out. So we're going to have some rules, and it's going to be a, go ahead.
Something that I see, and has come up before with me, you know, we have the landfill. The problem with that is the same thing you said with the county commission. You've got most people that work till 5 o'clock. I can't get to the landfill by 5 o'clock. Okay? If I can't get it there Saturday by noon, you're out of luck. That's where a lot of this comes from, is that, you know, we gave the courtesy. Some of this, like the houses and things like that, we shouldn't be picking that up as a county. There's a difference if I'm remodeling my bathroom and I throw a couple 2x4s out there and a sheetrock. But if I'm remodeling the whole house, that's a little bit more extensive. I mean, I'll be honest, here lately, at my house for 30 years, I put my bulk trash, tree trimmings or what, in a pile. My neighbor next door to me puts them in the same pile. The neighbor across the street throws them in our pile. So sometimes it made it look like a big pile. I'll be honest, we got tired of the crane guy dug a 2-foot hole in our yard. You know, we filled it up with dirt. He dug all the dirt back out, took it to the landfill. So now I've got a trailer. We just park it in my driveway. Everybody just throws it in the driveway. We take turns who can take it to the landfill and dump it. But some of this, like these houses that we have people that move out and throw it all at the road, it's a rental house or I'm moving. I agree. We've got to have something that when Tommy and them go out there, there's something they can do about it. The other biggest problem we have right now is a lot of this goes back to what Peggy said. 80% of the stuff that was at our road was cardboard boxes. We don't have really recyclables for cardboard boxes. How many Amazon boxes do you get on a weekly basis at your house? I know my wife orders more from Amazon and Walmart.com than she goes to the grocery store. That's our biggest part of our bulk waste that we put at the road, empty cardboard boxes. We got to figure out a way in Hamblen County to recycle this stuff better than what we're doing now. But we also have to have things, if it's a business throwing it at the road, and we hear it all the time. This guy comes home every day with a load of trees on the back of his trailer and dumps them in the driveway. That's not the county's job to haul that off. That's not a benefit to our county taxpayers. You know, we have to find a way, if somebody's bringing it home and dumping it in their yard, Tommy has to have a way that he can impose something. But until we make the reward less by fining them, they're going to keep doing it. I mean, if it costs me more to take it, less to take it to landfill than it does for me to throw it in my front yard, why wouldn't we throw it in our front yard if it's beneficial to us?
Chairman Horner.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add to all this, you know, it's like introductory objectives tonight. Education is going to be key. We have to change the course of our county and the abuse. I mean, taxpayers are having to pay for home remodels, to haul off, or commercial tree pickup. You know, we may come down to a convenience center here or there to combat what you're talking about. We may have to come up with something, but that's what this committee, and I'm speaking out of turn for Mr. Horner, but that's what we're wanting to open this up and get a real discussion on how we can do that. Because the first thing we do, we put measures out there, we're going to create illegal dumps. And then what are we going to do then?
Well, you're right.
So we need to work together. Yes, sir.
Let me get Tina to speak. She's been
I'm
waiting.
sorry, Tina's got to speak.
I will have to speak.
Come on up, Tina.
I'm just concerned for the stormwater department and the items that are being placed, just like sheetrock, insulation, some tile out of some of the older mobile homes that we're seeing that can contain the asbestos. That's getting placed in our ditch and during the rain, that's getting washed in the restaurants.
Tell them about the fines.
Well, we're jumping ahead, but I have to bring 4 new regulations, or not new regulations. One of them is going to be a new regulation, which is our enforcement response plan. That's going to be how our stormwater department enforces these regulations. And one of them is considered the illicit discharge. And that means anything that's placed there that's hazardous, it's harmful. It's the paint, the oil, the concrete that's being put into the catch basins. The enforcement response plan has to be added to all 4 of these regulations, and that's where the fines and penalties are going to be. We may want to, write that a little bit differently because of the bulk waste. We're trying to put some of the bulk waste in those regulations to help the enforcement. So that's where that definition, we're requesting for a definition that maybe by next month of what bulk waste actually is. And if we get that platform and everybody be okay with the bulk waste, then we can move forward if we get regulations
need to be on the same page with
We
this.
all need to be on the same page. Difficult way to send a letter saying, you've got to clean all of this up. But the road department comes in 2 days later and they fix it all up, which is great. So we kind of need to be working together as we're working forward on these regulations.
Are we not in danger as a county of being fined by the state, by environmental protection because of all this stuff running off?
They could step in. But we really just have to get the stormwater regulations adopted and in place. We also have it in our property maintenance. You already have regulations for property maintenance about this trash.
Just not being enforced, right?
And again, how do you enforce it if you have one department picking it up and another department writing citations? The county needs to be on the same page. I mean, we're doing our best to try to educate, write sensible letters, explaining why they can't do this and asking them to maybe back it up, but like we talked about before, we may have somebody that comes along behind it and they'll get the bags and everything and scatter it all over again, which is not the property owners. It's not their fault that that's happening. So, it's gonna be a combined effort.
See, I actually wrote a violation 2 days ago. A neighbor called, I go drive down and look, they piled the garbage up on the back porch. All that. That's a property maintenance, not a highway department, nothing whatsoever. You got that garbage piled up at the street. Is it property maintenance or is it both ways? Do I write or should Barry come pick it up? That's a big grader, big grader. You know, oh, you shouldn't have sent me that letter, Barry, I'll come pick it up, they'll come and pick it up. You know, I've done it at the street, but it's still, you know.
Different things like that, that when that rains, all of that, like I said before, is our strength. So we're trying to tackle things that we see like that and stormwater, making it bulk waste definition of this type of area. It's not the stormwater that gives us a little bit more to, so to speak, to be able to enforce it. You may want to consider giving out citations in the enforcement response plan for stormwater, can we actually just write a citation over there? And that's not part of the claims we presented, so that might be something we may want to look into. But if it, you know, littering, if we catch someone with us in 2 different times, someone's digging through the bags that we've asked them to bag material, can they be fined for littering if they're dumping all material out of the bag? There's a whole bunch of people and departments that do work together, I think, to get this resolved.
Right.
This isn't gonna happen overnight. This is
No.
more education, it's gonna be anything.
And I know we're talking with Chairman that this city is putting cameras out in high, in places where there's a lot of dumping.
We have 2 that we would like to put patrol cameras. It says, no dumping on the sign, and that's where all the garbage is.
And I think the biggest problem is, like you said, we got to tell them what's trash and what's not, because everybody's been so used to, this is what you used to be put out, and then you see like this down the road, well, they threw bricks and everything out, so I can throw it out. So, you know, have we ever thought about, and I would never say do away with bulk waste, okay, because that's a benefit for our community. Have we ever looked at, you know, there's some counties out there that you have to get the big giant bags to put, if it doesn't fit in that bag,
Contractor bags.
we don't haul it off. I mean, even though it's a cost to a homeowner, would I rather go buy a $10 bag that I can put a trailer load of trash in and we just pick that up? At least with the bag, it's consumed. But you're right. How many people is going to dig through that bag? Because I've learned through the years when we used to put it out there, we had a spot for the trash and we always set the metal out to the side. You could always tell when metal was up because the metal was gone. When the price of metal went down, it'd sit out there for a week. You know, you'd almost put a refrigerator out there, say for sale, and it'd disappear. You throw it out there for free, nobody'd ever take it. But, you know, you can always tell. And those are normally the people that are going through the trash looking for that recyclable that they can make some money off of.
There are some other counties that have researched that if you have larger bulk waste to pick up, you call and make an appointment. You let the department know. Because if those are on a regular route, and they're going down my street, and they run into this, that's gonna take them twice as long to run the route. And those are gonna have to stop and kind of clean it up. I mean, that takes more, and that's where the ditch is coming in, digging the stuff.
Well, and like you said, with the runoff, that's why we quit putting it out there, because the hole got deeper and deeper. We started getting water built up in it, which in the summertime, it would get pretty bad with mosquitoes and things like that. And we just covered it up and just quit doing it.
A lot of the stuff is gonna fall back to the road department and how they want to handle the bulk waste pickup. And it would be nice if they separated the material of the brush.
Well, you know, when we got the cans to begin with, if it didn't go in a can, they wasn't gonna pick it up. That was the rule. And the brush truck was just picking brush up. Then, little by little, they started picking up, and then everybody assumed that's what you gotta do then, and then you put it in there. The other thing about the landfill is if you're mixing the trash with the brush, they won't separate it. So it all goes in the landfill. If it's just brush, we got an incinerator, we can burn that, so it saves our landfill from filling up so fast. So there's a lot of stuff we can do, and I know it's getting late, and I just wanted to do an introductory and what we're looking at and what we're gonna have to do in the future. So that committee, you know, I'll be in touch with you, and we've got some stuff. City, Kat Morlock has offered to help. She kind of said it helped to set schedule with the city or somewhat, you know, where.
Well, I know the city has a schedule that you can't put it out the night before they come. So if they come on Tuesdays, it can't be at the road until Monday night.
The city only picks up so much bulk waste.
Right.
Yeah.
It's measured, so they know
Yeah.
what they're getting on their route. They're not getting what
No.
they're running into.
And you have to educate the drivers too that's picking it up, what to pick up. So.
Question. Now, you're not talking about brush, you're talking about this other stuff, correct?
Well, I'm talking about trash and bulk waste. I mean, the brush truck's been the brush truck for years.
That could be abused as well, though. There's been pictures of 100 yards of brush. That wasn't just one person.
And there's not one tree in their yard
Yeah.
or a stump.
Yeah, so that could be an abuse
No tree in
as well.
sight, they got all that brush.
I think you could address
Contractor
that.
issue.
You could address that through businesses, you know, if you're a construction person and you remodel a house, then maybe you don't get a permit next time to do the next one if you're dumping it at the road. But there's gotta be teeth to it. You can't.
Remodel without a permit.
Yes.
When they used to call to ask me if they had a permit at a certain site, that was actually, and then we did somebody different from the things that were asking the address. And we stopped several of those just by asking for this construction.
Because I talked to Barry this week, they had a guy that owned 7 acres and he hired a high lift to clear it, and they brought it all to the road. That is not the county's responsibility. And
Call the road department, they'll tell you that they will pick it up if it's someone helping you cut your trees. It has to be a
Standard.
If your two trouble spots, if one of you all will get a hold of me, I will assist you with some cameras on those two
Yeah,
trouble
I
spots.
have that one, it says, it's on camera road, and no doubt, the ditch stays right there, all that goes to.
I've had a landowner on Mountain Road actually told me she's put 2 trail cameras out right now, because I've been out there 3 different times in the past 3 months for a dump site, just right under the road. At a creek. They just take it over there and throw it out, and it's out on their property, but, you know, it's not theirs, so they put the trail cameras out.
did you say one of them's on Cameron Road?
I'm saying, this is the 3rd time in 3 months to bring the garbage and drop into the street.
Did you say one of them's on Cameron Road? That's awful close to the lake.
It goes right down to the park.
screen, you need to keep your eye open on Cameron Road.
Well, that's what I was just telling him, honey. I live on Cameron, and I was trying to figure out where it was at. Okay. I got a pretty good idea where you're talking about now.
Let me just say, and for Tom, that, you know, we recognize our concerns, and we need to educate, and then the enforcement, what we're gonna do. So if y'all just keep that in your mind, share with me any ideas you have. I appreciate these two and what they do. They've put in a lot of time, and that's all I have. We need to go
Thank you,
home.
Chairman Horner. Thank you. And we've got a lot of work to do with bulk waste, and it's obvious with the pictures.
Ask a question.
It depends on where we're going. We got another committee. What you got?
Okay. I just want to know if I could get one of the packets Mr.
Oh.
Walker got, please, after the meeting.
Yeah.
Please, sir.
I didn't know where he
Thank
was
you.
going. Okay. All right, thank you,
home.
Chairman Horner. Chairman Doty, calendar rules, please.
Call the Calendar and Rules Committee meeting to order. Do you have any visitors wishing to address this committee at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 3A at old business. May we have none. In new business, we have a review of the regular calendar items. Those should include adding item 13A, which is on public comments, with replacing disruptive as boisterous. 13B, with addition of verbally given name and address if they don't sign the sign-in sheet. Item 13C, which is the 3 minutes per speaker and 15 minutes total for speaking at committee, for different committees. Item 13D, which is 3 minutes for speaking per person, 30 minutes total for non-agenda, and then 30 minutes total for agenda. Item 13E, to move the monthly checks to the consent calendar. And 13F, to move the education, longevity, and military pay additions to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Ahern. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Chairman, we need, under finance, we need to add a budget amendment for the purchase of the health department location. We'll have a budget amendment for commission.
Okay, I thought we had that under the purchase agreement, which was
We can do it that way.
item C. But we can add it if we want to.
That doesn't matter either way.
Just add a budget amendment.
Make it clear.
Yeah.
C is the actual agreement.
And I-7, under the Finance Committee, will be a budget amendment covering the funds going to the purchase of the Oak Tree Plaza for the Health Department.
Yes, sir.
Now, do I have a motion? Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Mike Richardson made the motion.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4B is review of the consent calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second? Second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Doty. That concludes our business tonight. There's a couple of things that we need to announce. The BEOP plan and the Hamblen County Hazard Waste Mitigation Plan will be on our Hamblen County Government website tomorrow under Quick Links. That will be available to the public. Also, Commissioners, please leave your notebooks where they can be updated for our upcoming meeting. Mayor.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, at your seat, there's a flyer about there's a survey, online survey, about State Route 160. We're doing a quarter study on the traffic flows on 160 160 and what to do about anticipated traffic increases with the new elementary school being built on Martin Luther King and the dangers at the intersection of 25E and 160. And this Porter study is from Talbot to Lowland. So if you would go on and participate in this survey, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else? Our business is concluded. We are adjourned.